today so I can get here, and it was packed because everybody started going to Penn.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Time to call to order the January joint meeting of the MTA Board and of our board committees, Bridges and Tunnels, Transit, the Joint Railroad Committee, the Capital Program Committee, Audit, and the Finance Committee. Because of the storm, we elected to compress everything into a Wednesday meeting. We're going to start first with the safety announcement, as always, and then hear from our public speakers.
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Public speakers?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the MTA Board Meetings public comment session. We have 17 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Jason Anthony, followed by Iris Kelly.
Good morning. Is it on? Good morning, Catalina. Good morning, Jano, Paige, and the rest of the board members. Jason Anthony, the transit guru. This weekend storm proved to us once again that the MTA passed the test. Not like the other side of the Hudson that did the most epic fail that is still Wednesday and they don't want a complete weekday service. But when I was coming over here, exiting Bowling Green, I saw people running. We should put announcements saying, stations are slippery due to the weekend storm. Please be careful while exiting the station or entering the station. Because even though that was going slow because of the consequences, but people might go fast, run to the train, and they might slip. So we don't want that. And that could create a safety hazard. But in other things, in buses, it went smooth. Subways, the underground service patterns, it went perfectly. Logan Railroad, Metro North, I don't have no complaints whatsoever. So everything went super, super fine. So let's keep it up for this weekend storm that is, as of right now, a hit and miss. So I'll see you guys in February.
The next speaker is Iris Kelly, followed by Jessica Murray.
Yes, this weekend, just before the weather problems, that evening they found there were some problems going out to Long Island. always going from Huntington to Fort Jeff line to go to Northport, the train was always back to back in Huntington. But no, this weekend, very cold where they had nerve to put go up and over to the other side to get the train. That is a real shame. It should have been we either walk ahead of the train or we had to come behind us like they always did. But it shouldn't make people climbing all over to get to the other side on a very cold day. It was not nice. I mean, I know this route every weekend. I'm always out there all the time, so I know what's going on. No, this is better than that. And then now in regards to Long Island Road in Jamaica, that should be more than once to be on track 3. I know because I was there yesterday. Yesterday was on track 3. There was no problem with it. There's no reason why all the other trains can be on track 3. No excuse for putting them all in 11 and 12. It's a disgrace. And you should at least put us on a different, closer platform when it's at nighttime. Shouldn't make it work a long distance-wise just to get to the connecting train? I mean, everybody else is going west, goes west, and then we shouldn't have to go west and then go east just to get home. That is really a disgrace also. Hope you do better than that next month. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jessica Murray, followed by Miriam Fisher.
Good morning. I'm going to introduce myself for those who haven't met me before. My name is Jessica Murray. I'm a disability rights activist and advocate. I've been doing this work since 2017 when I was a PhD candidate at the Graduate Center, CUNY, studying developmental psychology. And I briefly chaired the advisory committee for transit accessibility here at the MTA, actually for 4 years. Now I'm working on a disability rights archive for the state of New York, and we have an exhibit that's up right down the street at 83 Maiden Lane at an organization called Positive Exposure. So we've been collecting materials from advocates and organizations who have been involved in the fight for accessible transportation here in the city for decades. And we have a preview exhibit that shows past, present, and future, how we've gotten to where we are today. We've come a long way since people couldn't get off their own sidewalk because there were no curb cuts in the entire city. We've made a lot of progress just in the few years. It's really incredible to see all of the elevators that have been built, and I'm so grateful that I've been a part of that fight. And so I'd like to invite people. I'm going to be at the gallery space all day today until 6 o'clock. We're doing tours with the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, disability service facilitators this morning, as well as some MTA disability ERG members who are coming on their lunch break this afternoon. So it's going to be there. I'd like you to come and check it out and see how we've gotten here. It's because of the advocates who kept fighting and fighting for these changes, and change has not been steady by any means. A lot of times we go backwards, but people used to say that things were impossible, like low kneeling buses. They said those would be impossible. We have those today. This body argued in court that announcements on trains for elevators being out of service would be impossible, but 2 people have reported that they've heard those announcements recently. So again,
Please
thank
conclude
you
your remarks.
for responding to our push, and I invite everyone to come check out the exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. The next speaker is Miriam Fisher, followed by Norbert Gies.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. To the MTA, please sign the elevator maintenance case, which is 8 years long. Announcements and warnings of elevators outages, just as Jessica Murray had mentioned in her testimony. I thank the MTA for recent warnings of announcements on the number 1 train that the next stop the elevator is out, and which subsequent station has a working elevator. We also need auditory announcements on the platform, speakers, and also the digital displays. Riders with few choices get stranded for hours and need often the EMS to rescue them. Bus stops. I applaud the DOT announcement of putting seats on all New York City buses and calling seats a human right. Also, we need shelters from the weather. The buses were running during the storm. People were waiting by lonely poles that announced bus stops, but no shelter for 15 minutes, 20 minutes for the next bus. This is for people with disabilities, seniors, children, pregnant women. Everybody needs shelter from the bad weather. Thank you for listening.
The next speaker is Norbert Gies, followed by Brian Fritsch.
Good morning. My name is Norbert Gies. I'm a member of Civics United for Railroad Environmental Solutions. After almost 25 years of community advocacy, we are thrilled that the MTA LIRR is finally on track for an open, fair, competitive, cost-effective Tier 4 road switcher repowering. However, our communities have experienced long-standing harms from freight locomotives because of how the MTA, the LIRR locomotive procurement went off track in 2013 and 2018. So we most respectively state that it is imperative that this procurement achieves maximum possible reductions in engine pollution and noise through the purchase of proven switch duty locomotives. Also, it is essential to get the most units possible repowered for this procurement. The MTA can do this by leveraging tens of millions of previously allocated state funds with an application for some of the $5 billion in federal funds that are available. We thank you and have a pleasant day.
The next speaker is Brian Fritsch, followed by Joe Rappaport.
Good morning. I'm Brian Fritsch, Associate Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. I want to start by thanking the workers who have been out through the storm and cold weather, doing their utmost to keep operations moving. Riders sincerely appreciate the immense effort. In addition to snow, January brought fare changes, and it's been very satisfying watching two fare incentives PCAC has long advocated for become reality. The extension of the family fare to 12 and 17-year-olds, and the expansion of the half fare for discount for senior, disabled, and Medicare-eligible riders to the AM peak. We look forward to hearing more about how the implementation of these policies is going, as well as ongoing efforts to make riders aware of these changes. On the other hand, we were surprised to learn the railroad's refund policy had also drastically changed, with little notice to riders or the MTA board, as it was not included in the fare change materials and discussion last year. Shortening the refund window for mobile one-way tickets to a paltry 2 minutes, which I challenge anyone who doesn't know the Train Time app like the back of their hand to complete in that time frame, and not allowing refunds for day pass tickets are some of the particularly onerous rules. Please consider making them a bit more generous. We've also heard from many riders mourning the loss of the 10-day ticket, and more broadly, the loss of flexibility they used to have to buy tickets ahead of time. These adjustments seem particularly painful for riders, and we'll be interested to see how it impacts ridership patterns over time. Thank you.
The next speaker is Joe Rappaport, followed by Micah Bergdale.
Good morning. I'm Joe Rappaport from the Brooklyn Center for Independence of the Disabled. Typically before a committee meeting, there's a hearty band of people holding signs downstairs urging you to settle the elevator maintenance lawsuit that my organization and others brought against you nearly 9 years ago. They weren't here this morning. My colleagues didn't come because it's hard to get around after a storm, especially if you have a mobility disability. And it's particularly hard to get around by bus, since bus stops are the last place to be cleared in this city, if they're cleared at all. In my travels in Brooklyn and Manhattan today and yesterday, I haven't seen one usable bus stop. Now, I understand that the MTA doesn't have control over clearing bus stops, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have a strong interest in making sure stops are usable. Among other things, of course, you lose revenue every time someone decides not to take a bus trip. This is hardly a new problem. I wrote a column in AM New York 22 years ago about impassable bus stops after a snowfall. I could have written it today. One problem is that there are so many entities who have responsibility for clearing bus stops: the sanitation department, the building owner, the shelter contractor. It's time for the MTA, to assert itself. There's a new transportation commissioner, a new administration in City Hall. You're all smart people. You can come up with a better approach to clearing bus stops swiftly. In the short term, do your own survey today to gauge the situation. At the same time, work with the city and the shelter contractor to get those stops cleared. Send your own crews out too. And come up with another approach for the future that actually works. It's going to snow again, maybe even this weekend. Time to make clearing bus stops a priority, not an afterthought. Thank you.
The next speaker is Micah Bergdale, followed by Jesse Figueroa.
Members of the board, I'm running for Congress in New York 12, but I'm also a career transit fare collection specialist. I've led companies here in New York City that has done fare collection all over the world with patents to my name in terms of the technology that I've developed. I'm here today to talk to you specifically about Cubic. We have real concerns about their association with Department of Homeland Security and the contracts that they and their various subsidiaries are working with Department of Homeland Security, and ICE is a beneficiary of some of these contracts. I'm sure you're all aware of the recent tragedies that have been happening with ICE in Minneapolis and around the United States. I'm urging the MTA board to seriously consider getting rid of Cubic. Atlanta has done it, San Diego has done it. There are other fare collection providers. I do not have an economic interest in this. I've left the industry, but I am an expert. I have worked with Cubic closely over the years, and I do know that their technology can be used, can be shared with the federal government. I do not trust this administration. I know the MTA has put together contracts in order to try to secure personal data. While I appreciate every effort the MTA might make, I worry that the pressure from this administration would be too significant and that we might lose access to our data to this administration. So please, 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 I'm urging you to not award a new contract for the replacement of the fare gates. I know that there's currently a test going on with a few different vendors. Cubic happens to be one of them. I would urge you to cancel the AI chatbot contract that you have right now with Cubic. I think that is way too dangerous for people to be putting in their personally identifiable information with an AI chatbot with a company like this. And I would then urge you to look at alternatives. There are a number of players out there who could replace the fare payment system. I think there are actually lower cost solutions out there
Please
that
conclude your
also would not
remarks.
have these risks. Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Jesse Figueroa, followed by Haiti Villanueva.
Mr. Mack, just a heads up that your microphone is on. You may want to mute your microphone, Mr. Mack. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. Good morning, everybody from the VA Hospital in Brooklyn. To members of the joint committees, my name is Jesse Figueroa. I am resident of Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, U.S. Army veteran, accessibility, transportation advocate, District 1 commander of the VFW Department of New York. I speak to you today to offer my appreciation of the three recent highlights of the MTA service. I want to commend the 2025 Holiday Train Program, the return of the nostalgia trains on our subway, and expansion of the Holiday Light trains on the Long Island Railroad, especially the new diesel set, and then the Metro North Railroad, and then Long Island Railroad's trial phase, brought community and joy to our transit system. These programs celebrate our city's heritage and the essential role transit plays in our lives. I hope to see these traditions grow in 2026. I want to recognize the incredible job done by the crew during this past Sunday's winter storm. Despite the snow and frigid temperatures, the preparation from salting platforms to monitoring track switches was clear. Maintaining service and restoring regular schedules by Monday morning is a testament to the hard work of the thousands of MTA employees who worked through the night. In a year of significant change, these successes demonstrate the MTA's operational resilience. I also commend the MTA PD and the NYPD knocking down fare evasion as we retire MetroCard and welcome Omni. I can say it has truly helped me and many others in the veterans and disability communities. Happy New Year, all of you. Thank you for your time and for the continuous work you do.
The next speaker is Haiti Villanueva, followed by Yuki Endo.
Hi, my name is Haiti. I am speaking as an accessoride user with reduced mobility. My concern that I want to share that I hope can be addressed since contacting accessoride has not made any improvements or changes regarding this matter is the system that we use to book our trips by default has me wait over an hour and a half between each of my trips, and this is causing me a lot of distress. Basically, if I have to do a quick errand, for example, go to the bank and get some money out the ATM, something that may take me, less than 15 minutes, I am now waiting an hour at the bank for me to get a ride back home, or to my next destination. And nothing's being done to change these long waits between rides, even for rides that are like 5 minutes long. I still have to wait an hour and a half plus before I can get my next ride. And that's me waiting outside in pain, in terrible weather at times, in cold weather, waiting for a ride to get back home, which is to me unacceptable and sometimes has to cause me to spend my own money to get back because I cannot wait that long. So this is something that I feel really needs to be addressed. The most that I've gotten from Accessoride was that I can do taxi authorization, which I do take advantage of, but that's only within borough. So this does not help me when I have things that I need to do outside of my borough because taxi authorization is not allowed to other boroughs. So something needs to be done about the long waits between booking rides or allow taxi authorizations to other boroughs. Thank you.
The next speaker is Yuki Endo, followed by David Kupferberg.
A part-time and at the for not a disabled employment support office. First, I would like to association the NTA overnight worker for needing the service to listen stone. Speaking on the behalf of the riders in New York City Thursday, I attended agency duties in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut to work together with business owner, papa manager to clear snow from bus shelter and nearby sidewalk unclear shed. A shelter create severe safety risk, especially for the ADA user elderly passenger. Regarding fair policy, I do not support free bus ride purpose by the near. Because the entry is over budget. However, I do support free fare and limited needing full days, including a sun major holiday. When I live in New York City, I was grateful to use the network across NTA nice beyond Lucia Island Way, where as a regional system using NTA previously. As the only expert, I respectfully request only penalizing articulate regional, including hence taking Nino until which is candy. One of the stone exchange occur okay waiting area at the corner leadership didn't open for both train and bus side. Thank you for your time and cooperation.
The next speaker is David Kupferberg, followed by Cara Girl.
Good morning. My name is David Kupferberg, member of Passengers United. We think that because of the snowstorm, the Long Island Railroad and Metro North Railroad should waive its $8 surcharge. Because of the storm, many people, we feel that maintaining the surcharge during this time is an injustice. I also support Mr. Rappaport's statement that clearing bus stops should be done quickly and swiftly after a snowstorm. As part of the Brooklyn Bus Network redesign, the MTA is proposing to cut Flatbush Avenue service by 1/3 north of Grand Army Plaza. The MTA also claims that downtown Brooklyn is the fastest growing part of the borough and is adding bus lanes. Such statements are contradictory. Now, a little history. To know how services should change, one, a person would have to know the histories of the services. The thoroughfares in central Brooklyn travel by the B7, B15, B38, B43, B44, B48, B49, B65, and the North Williamsburg segment of the B62 has bus service by default. As that nearby streets were converted to one-way traffic during the 1950s, traffic in the opposite direction had to go somewhere. But these changes were made haphazardly. Such actions over time created service gaps. Unfortunately, nothing was done to mitigate them. The B49 should be streamlined, but the MTA so far refuses. Their service planners think that the streamlining of the B49 would duplicate bus service via the Flatbush Avenue corridor. This is an excuse because if Manhattan has duplicated service, most of the north-south services would have to be discontinued. Thank you. Have a good, pleasant day.
The next speaker is Cara Girl, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Good morning. I'm Cara Girl, Planning and Advocacy Manager at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. First, thank you to all the transit workers who braved this weekend's storm and kept riders moving throughout this winter weather. We appreciated the storm prep updates last week and communication with riders about what to expect. Today is the first board meeting since MetroCard sales have ended, and the first few weeks of the full Omni rollout have been going well. We're encouraged by the recent updates to the Omni backend that have helped work out some of the technical issues, but are continuing to monitor feedback from riders. Omni is a big step forward, and we hope that it will continue to evolve to better meet rider needs. We were also glad to see the new fare gates piloted at subway stations around the city. We've all seen the videos of people trying to find their way through, above, below, and around, but overall, these new turnstiles are an investment in a more modern transit network. As with everything, communication is key to ensuring that all riders understand the differences between these new gates and the old turnstiles to reduce the risk of any mishaps or injuries. We also want to make sure that all riders can afford transit by expanding the Fair Fares program. We'd like to see eligibility increase to 300% of the federal poverty level, fully free fares for riders making up to the current threshold, automatic enrollment, fair fares on express buses and the commuter rails within New York City, and for senior Access-a-Ride users to keep their discounts after they turn 65. This month also brought some great news from Governor Hochul on the 2nd Avenue subway in Jamaica Station. Both projects are many years in the making and will make a real difference for riders. For these and all capital projects, we're excited to use the upgraded capital program dashboard to track progress and updates. And of course, we were thrilled to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of congestion pricing with the MTA, Governor Hochul, and Mayor Mamdani earlier this month. The program is working and the cameras are staying on. Thank you.
The next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Rhiannon Murphy.
Good morning. My name is Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United. So, yesterday, several LIRR trains and Metro North trains were canceled. But guess what? People had to activate the tickets before they got on the train. Otherwise, they would have to pay an $8 surcharge. That is not fair. And during these snowstorms, the $8 activation fee should be waived. And also, there should be a credit issued back to the passengers, a full fare refund for canceled trains, because now people have to get on a shuttle bus, they're being inconvenienced. Now, let's talk about Omni. Why is it at Flushing Main Street, 179th Street, and Jamaica Center, you only have very few Omni machines? There have been long lines of people trying to buy Omni cards, and most of those people use Nice Bus. You have to also have some station agents who speak Chinese and Korean, so you can help them as well at Flushing Main Street. And also, several trains have been canceled this week. Communication has been very poor. There was just a fire on a Metro North train in Scarsdale, as we just saw. and the M7 cars need to be retrofitted. They need to be rebuilt, or there needs to be like a refurbishment of the M7 cars. The ice buildup in the doors and the electrical components is causing a lot of issues. I also want to talk about the homeless situation in the subway system. So I put in a 311 ticket for an encampment at the Fifth Avenue subway station. We're seeing a lot of homeless encampments. The homeless situation on the subway system is out of control. In fact, I was threatened 2 times by homeless people on
Please
the
conclude your
subway, and we
remarks.
had to call for help. Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Rhiannon Murphy, followed by Andy Pollock.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rhiannon Murphy, born and raised in New York City. I am a New Yorker. I am a mother. It is unaffordable to ride the trains. I have 386,000 New Yorkers on Instagram asking for where the real unlimited Metro cards are. It's costing $60 to $100 a week. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of comments. People are being forced to use civil disobedience if you, as board members, don't realize how we're dealing with tripling the rent, tripling the food, and now we have a $35 fake unlimited Metro card. It is not affordable. We need you to vote accordingly. We need you to back New Yorkers who make this city work. We need you to do something. 386,000. I spoke to 3 senators. Channel 7 News is reporting on it. Why isn't anybody doing anything? Fair fares is not fair. You have to make under $30,000 for 2 people. I'm a single mother. I make over that. How can I afford to get to work? How can I afford to buy food? How can I afford to pay rent if I can't even get to work? Thank you.
The next speaker is Andy Pollock, followed by Michael Ring.
Good morning, everyone. This is Andy Pollock from Passengers United. First of all, everybody, Happy New Year. 2 things we're going to discuss for January. First, point of personal privilege. Everybody's talking about bus stops. Just for the record, many MTA board members know I live in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in New York City, Fresh Meadows. Yesterday, I was waiting for the Q45 bus at 188th Street and Union Turnpike. And guess what? There was a huge amount of snow, and I had to wait for the bus on the street. And I don't want to wait for the Q17 because the traffic light over there is a mess. So I would prefer when the 45 makes a left turn, you know, it's easier for me to get on board than I get off at 73rd Avenue and then walk back to my house. So can we please get that shoveled? You know, because I'm seriously thinking about making a 311 complaint about that. So let's just put that for the record. Now, the real reason why I came on here was to discuss the M7s. So, like I had brought up at the end of last year, now we're seeing the M7s having flaws. And the cold weather pretty much proved my point from December. Because right after the snowstorm, and if you look specifically at all equipment available, where were the M7s when people were trying to get back onto the LIRR? It was mostly M9 trains. So these trains, again, they're from 2003. They're almost 25 years old. And again, the M9As are in the capital budget, approved in 2024. We need the M9As as soon as possible because what we saw with this winter storm proved why we need the M7s gone. So with that, thank you for letting me speak, and I'll hopefully speak to you all again in February.
The next speaker is Michael Ring, followed by Anna Humphrey.
My name is Michael Ring. If anyone needs a verbal description of my appearance, I'm a 62-year-old white guy that always needs a shave, and I'm wearing a hoodie. I represent Disabled in Action of Greater New York today, and I'd like to talk about taxi reimbursement. One of my previous speakers mentioned it. It's a very good system where if you plan in advance, under certain circumstances, you could book your own travel and get paid back. And most importantly, if you have a problem with your ride, on your way home usually, you can ask to be reimbursed and then you can get paid back. If you have to be able to lay out the money, not everyone has that. I am the time frame on the reimbursements used to be about a month. I am currently waiting to be reimbursed for a trip I took on September 16th. I don't really remember what I was doing back then. If there's a problem with my receipt, I'm going to have to look it up. But I just looked up what was going on September 16th. September 16th was during the summer season. It was 88 degrees. It was a long time ago. You guys are all executives. The people who work for you are executives. You often have to lay out your own money. If you had to wait 4.5 months to get reimbursed, you wouldn't do that. It's a lot of money. I'm chair of the Accessible Transit Advisory Committee. I have a slight amount of access to what's going on. I keep getting told we're working on staffing up. We're working on making it better. We're working on automating it. It's been months. People are going broke. People are not using it because it's just hard to use. The paperwork involved is a little bit complicated, but the time frame is really unfair. If it's about staffing up, there are disabled people who are looking for work. I can tell them to send in their resumes. This is something that people can do from home. Thank you for your time, and I hope this gets fixed. Thanks.
The next speaker is Anna Humphrey, followed by Christopher Greif.
Good morning. My name is Anna Humphrey, and I'm with the Center for Independence of the Disabled, New York, Sydney. I want to speak about accessibility as a system, both Access-a-Ride eligibility and subway station accessibility upgrades. First, Access-a-Ride. The eligibility assessment process continues to prioritize mobility disabilities while failing to adequately assess intellectual, cognitive, developmental, and psychiatric disabilities. These disabilities can make it just as unsafe for someone to use public transit independently. The assessment process must involve mental health professionals and clinicians trained in intellectual and developmental disabilities. Without that expertise, Access-a-Ride will continue to exclude riders it was designed to serve. People with permanent disabilities also should not be required to undergo repeated in-person assessments. These appointments create unnecessary barriers and do not improve system integrity. Verification should be done in ways that do not force riders to travel when their disability will never improve. Second, when the MTA makes subway accessibility improvements, those upgrades must be complete and intentional, not partial. Accessibility projects should include adequate lighting, tactile platform edges, and where possible, platform barriers or gates. We have seen the real and tragic consequences of unsafe platforms. Accessibility is not just about access, it's about safety and forethought. When the MTA invests in accessibility, it must commit to doing it right. Thank you.
Our next and final speaker will be Christopher Greif.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Yes, Jano, I will go quick as a whistle since you know I'm fast. First of all, Happy New Year and happy anniversary, Jano. As you know, I got to make sure. But first, I do want to thank our MTA during our hard times of snow. First of all, thanks to Access-a-Ride, because my mother wanted me to say this to you guys. As you know, yesterday we had to come back from Connecticut, but Access-a-Ride did a fantastic job. It is not easy dealing with a lot of the communities with not shoveling the snow from bus stops. But at least the Access-a-Ride have doing their job. They cannot be there on time because we have areas that need to be shoveled. And I know I have mentioned this to DOT and sanitation. Wake up, they got to wake up and smell the fresh air because we need to get that areas clear. So 311 is one, but we do need to continue keeping the shoveling. So thank you for those also. As well as thank God the train stations are easy to get on and off the stations, and that's including the railroads. Main thing is as you know, we're coming into budget season, and we want to make sure the future accessibility is reliant to us and making sure more things are up to date. As the following person said, I agree, because we need to make sure that stations are fully accessible, not just elevators and ramps, technology, accessible signages, and yes, updating our buses because we're doing very well. And regarding the fare gates, it's glad to see those new gates out, but we need to see the NYPD at certain stations. I do see MTA police, but we still need to make sure for safety is there. So let's please work together. Happy New Year and happy Valentine's Day to all the young ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Lieber, that concludes our public comment session this morning.
Okay. We got to go in executive session. I'm not sure if we have a quorum because all our Long Island members somehow got here, but our New York City-based members seem to be struggling. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum now.
Yeah, I know. I got one. We noticed you come in. Yes. We do have a quorum. Okay, we're going to make a motion to go into executive session. Any second? Thank you, Mr. Leathers. We're all in favor. We'll go into executive session. Thank you. Okay, good morning. While in executive session, the board discussed and voted firmly on labor agreements with the UTLO and the Doctors Council, correct? Yes. So with that, I'm going to do my remarks, and then we're going to move on to the committee reports. Let's do that quickly. So I want to thank everybody, especially members of the public who showed up for the our wintry meeting. But I really want to start by recognizing the extraordinary performance of our operating agencies during the storm, and especially the MTA workforce who really showed up when we needed it. Listen, we were, I'm going to crow a bit. I mean, we were basically the only major transit agency on the eastern seaboard that kept operating. North and south of us seemed to be unable to maintain service. So we did put together a video we're going to show you in a few minutes highlighting the work that our MTA folks put in to make it possible for us to continue operating.
Jano.
Hi, David.
Yeah, I must also. I've been
No,
on the road.
not now, David. This isn't. We're not. This is not the public board comment moment. So let us get through the remarks, and then we can come back.
You got it.
Okay. Listen, we are starting. Seriously, we are starting 2026 in very, very good shape. We had a record-setting 2025. We'll go over some of those accomplishments again because there are new ones to be recognized. But there's an annual report which has been distributed, and folks should take a look at that because I think it does a nice job of capturing what we did. One headline that all of us always looked at, almost 2 billion trips taken on New York City transit, subway, bus, paratransit altogether. It's up 7% from 2024 and almost 80% from where we were in 2021 when this version of the MTA came together with this board. 2026 was also the safest year on the subways in a generation. Overall subway crime down 14% compared to 2019, the pre-COVID year we use as a benchmark. And, obviously credit to our partnership with the NYPD and with Governor Hochul, who is continuing her investments, as she laid out in the State of the State, in making sure there's money for extra cops on the New York City subway system. And she also doubled down on her commitment to Scout, this very successful mental health outreach program that's directed at people who are experiencing serious mental illness in the public space. And we're having success getting them into treatment, into more stable situations. So hopefully they can begin to recover. And we're very proud of that and appreciative of the governor's continued investment in the Scout program. The results are pretty clear. We had the highest customer satisfaction with the subway to date in our fall customers count survey, now at 62%, which is a 13% increase over where we were just a year ago in the fall 2024 report. Satisfaction with safety, the key, which is so key, is up 6 points, now to 63%, the highest level it has ever been since we began doing these surveys back in 2022. And, not to soft pedal, Metro North and Long Island Railroad customer satisfaction remains well above 80%, which is not surprising given the performance they had with OTP in the high 90s. The full results of customers count are going to be made available online as part of our continuing commitment to open data. Later today, we'll be heading back to court. That's the reason that we're going to cut short the press conference component of our usual board meeting protocols. We're going to be heading back to court at the Southern District to watch our lawyers do the oral argument on the congestion pricing case in front of Judge Lyman. But a couple weeks ago, and you see the photo, I was with Governor Hochul and Mayor Mamdani celebrating the first full year of congestion pricing. At this point, I dare say anyone who's paying attention and has a pulse is aware that congestion pricing has delivered and continues to deliver on all of the stated goals. Less traffic, faster travel, especially in and out of the crossings to Manhattan, whether you're on a bus or driving, safer streets, better air quality, and soon enough, better transit, because congestion pricing, that $15 billion that it is in the process of contributing to our capital program, was a huge piece of the record commitment levels that Jamie Torres Springer and the team at MTA Construction Development have been able to accomplish. They were able to accomplish in 2025. Jamie's going to go into all that later in this meeting. But if you think we're slowing down, needless to say, think again. We have the same goal. It's kind of the watchword, I believe, of this MTA is we're going to do the hard stuff. And one of the hard things is to deal with fare evasion. Our new fare gate prototypes are getting a lot of attention, especially on TikTok. There are 3 different models, all paid for by the companies who are competing for this contract. There are 3 different models being tested now across 9 stations. That number of stations is going to double in the weeks to come. More than 2 million people have used them so far, and we are learning a lot about what works and also about some aspects of it that over time we will have to adjust. Features of both the design and the software and otherwise that we're going to have to customize for, frankly, optimizing how they work in New York. We want to make the best choice for New York because this is going to be installed in 150 stations as part of our 2025 to 29 capital program. Those stations will account for over 70% of our ridership, so this is a big, big choice. But things are starting up in Albany. However, unlike the past 3 years, we don't have a big financial ask on the table with the legislature. So in 2026, we are going to be focusing not only on traditional metrics like OTP and service delivery, but to hone in on increasing productivity and efficiency in our operations to the benefit of the public. Obviously, we have productivity and efficiency initiatives that go especially to how we use the public's money. But we also need to be focusing on how do we deliver better service and faster service. Metro North has been leading the way with their Super Express trains from New Haven and from Poughkeepsie, which has made a big impression on our customers who come from the northern end of the system. And we would like to see if we can use the best modern scheduling software, which is out there, some of which we have access to because of existing contracts, to optimize our schedule. You're going to hear from transit over time. We do have the analytical tools that can help us to optimize schedules for passengers and also eliminate the time that onboard staff do waste sitting in crew rooms at terminals waiting for the train that they're assigned to. We can create a better system that gives better service and also has less inefficiency built into it. So I want to see us double down this year on those kinds of initiatives. On the capital side, we're going to keep advancing Second Avenue Phase 2. Everybody's aware of the drama about Gateway, which is actually, they're in a different cash flow situation than we are, so they are literally running out of money in the next week with the still unexplained stoppage of work from Washington. But the Second Avenue subway is subject to the same unexplained stoppage of funding from Washington. And we are very much hoping that reason prevails. We have answered the federal government's questions about the DBE program. We have shown them exactly how we're going to bring our DBE program into alignment with, frankly, the regime that was created by the Supreme Court when they took action, when they issued their decision on affirmative action, whatever you think of that. We have started the process of recertifying all of these minority and women-owned companies so that they can participate in this revised and changed version of the DBE program. There's no reason for the Second Avenue subway funding to be stopped. And Jamie and his folks have done a great job of showing the FTA that this project is moving forward. Why would you want to create delays and additional costs and schedule problems by slowing it down? So we're hoping that again, that action is taken sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, we are, as everybody heard, per the governor's State of the State speech, we are seriously, going to look into the possibility of keeping the tunnel boring machine moving when it reaches the end of its, path, and in this phase of the Second Avenue subway, where it was scheduled to end at Lenox Avenue, near where the Second Avenue subway, Lexington Avenue, and 125th Street stop will be, and instead continuing west, perhaps all the way to Broadway, to be the core groundwork for the next phase of Second Avenue subway. And that is we're not committing to that project financially. That's a decision that we and governor and other authorities will have to make over time. But it makes sense to explore the possibility of saving money by keeping that tunnel boring machine moving when it reaches the end of its route on this phase. So we have a real opportunity to save years and hundreds of millions of dollars to keep building this, what we call the Q West project, the Quest project, the Q to the west across 125th Street. And we're going to be spending time on that with the board. The governor, in her State of the State address, also introduced the idea of creating a much better Jamaica station. With the growth of the air train volumes, which are significant, and all the extra transfers that are taking place at Jamaica with the new Grand Central Madison service, Long Island Railroad riders really deserve a more modern station. This is apparently the fourth largest train station in terms of volume in the United States. So this is a study we're going to do jointly with the Port Authority. We're doing it jointly with the Port Authority. We're thrilled that Catherine Garcia is going over there. She's well aware of this work and the governor's interest, and we're looking forward to that as well. Another State of the State proposal of the governor's with huge implications for this agency is the push to bring down auto insurance rates by getting some of the elements of our law that unintentionally permit fraud, that permit a lot of sort of irrationality in the auto crash litigation process. This is important to us as owners and operators of an almost 6,000 strong bus fleet. The MTA, no secret, is a deep pocket. And the result is that we frequently get sued and hit with huge payouts, even when we're only found 1% responsible for a crash. I'm not shocking anybody, but when there's an auto accident, the lawyers tend to look around and say, was there an MTA bus anywhere nearby? Because if we can be made responsible for even 1% of that crash, they're all of a sudden very big potential payout because we are the deep pocket. So we are very enthusiastic, although the governor's proposal is purposed at reducing auto insurance rates for New Yorkers. It would also change a major exposure for the MTA, but also for the city of New York, which operates, police cars and sanitation vehicles and fire trucks that are also subject to this kind of deep pocket litigation exposure. So you heard me talk a lot about the State of the State. I've said it, I'm going to keep saying it. We are blessed to have the ultimate pro-transit governor who is leading our state at this moment. And not only that, we got a mayor who is a proud transit advocate. And I do think with their support, we are in for another great year at the MTA. So before I turn it over to Jamie to talk about, am I talking about collection commitments? Yes? No? Oh, I'm turn it over to Bernard. Well, you know what? We got to work on our scripting. But before I turn it over to Bernard, please roll the video about our storm response.
This past week, New York City braced for one of the largest winter storms in recent memory. While millions of New Yorkers were hunkering down, the MTA was hard at work, initiating a massive multi-agency response from the subways, railroads, and buses to our bridges and tunnels. Tens of thousands of MTA employees worked around the clock to ensure the city never stopped moving. Thousands of New York City Transit employees were on the front lines, clearing snow, checking switches, running their routes, and making sure riders stayed safe. The entire bus fleet was chained by midnight Saturday, supported by 4,000 bus workers who kept the surface system moving. On the railroads, Metro North and Long Island Railroad deployed thousands of employees to clear snow and ran special train cars equipped with scraper shoes to keep the rails clear even when conditions were at their worst. At our bridges and tunnels, 200 employees per shift managed a fleet of 113 snow fighting vehicles with over 8,600 tons of de-icer ready. The MTA coordinated in real time with the National Guard, state police, and sanitation workers to keep the boroughs connected. This storm tested our infrastructure, but thanks to the dedication of thousands of our employees, the MTA ensured New York remained the city that never sleeps. Thanks for riding with us. This past week, New York City braced for...
Okay. Once was enough. We love it. Thank you. I want to thank Matt Zeller and the customer comms team for putting that video together yesterday. They are the best in the business, and it's not just me saying so, right, Shanifa? We found out yesterday, we found out that our customer comms team, who works for Shanifa Riera, won an APTA AdWheel Award for the Ride Inside, Stay Alive campaign. So I want to congratulate our team for that. Okay, so on to the compressed committee meeting, and we're going to start with Bernard and hear about the amazing work of New York City Transit.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, board members. I'll do my best to fill in for President Critchlow today. First, I want to acknowledge the incredible work the entire team has put in over the weekend to continue to run operations through the storm. I also want to take a moment to thank Chair Lieber. He was out in full force, visited, depots, the train stations, stopped by our rail control center, stopped by the bus command center, and had an opportunity to see firsthand on how our new state-of-the-art technology is allowing us to view bus systems in real time, to be able to look at delays where they're occurring, to be able to look at buses that are big gaps that are forming on the streets, to be able to identify buses that perhaps wasn't moving because they were perhaps stuck in the snow. So it gives us another dimension, another tool in our toolbox similar to the subway system where we can see bus service operating in real time. Riders depended on us. Even in the worst weather, riders are taking the bus, train, and paratransit, and I'm proud to say transit was there for them. The MTA was the only regional agency that continued to run operations throughout the storm, and while the transit system experienced some service changes and detours, I'm pleased to say that there was no major disruptions. Preparing for the major snowstorm. This system was developing a week in advance, coming from the West Coast, moving through the Panhandle, through the Midwest, and our teams was working days in advance to make sure we were prepared. There's no coincidence. No one here crosses their fingers and hopes for the best. Work to prepare for the Sunday storm began long before the first flakes fell. The work of our staff accomplished in advance of bad weather really does run the gamut. We have an arsenal of snow throwers, snow brooms, ice picks, shovels, which are maintained and inspected by our in-house teams. Switches are tested and third rail heaters are activated and inspected in advance of the storm. Station and facilities are salted. We had 6 de-icers and 5 snow thrower trains that were inspected and ready to deploy. For buses, chains go on all buses that will be placed in service during the storm, which amounted to over 2,500 buses this time. We inspected our fleet of 27 full-size snow trucks and 12 pickup trucks designated for blowing and salt spreading operations. And paratransit equipped 50-plus vehicles with chains, tires to be ready to assist stuck passengers. Thankfully, we made it through the storm without needing them. They also proactively reached out to customers to advise of potential snow impacts to schedule trips and initiated what would be constant contact with carriers to ensure that most vulnerable customers will receive high-quality service. Operations throughout the storm, and that effort paid off. This was the result of over 16,000 subway employees and nearly 6,000 bus employees working around the clock on Sunday to keep the system running. They executed their duties with determination and commitment to the New Yorkers who couldn't stay home, the first responders, the healthcare workers, the folks who keep the city alive. The New Yorkers showed up despite the weather, and we were ready. On Sunday, over 1 million rides were still taken across the whole entire transit system. We ran about 4,400 trips on the subway, and at peak service had over 2,300 buses on the road and completed 3,150 paratransit trips. Our department heads, Bill, Frank, and Rachel, were all out in the field during the storm working with the team to ensure folks are on the ground and had what they needed to get their jobs done. In fact, I had to tell those guys, you probably need to go home. It's been about 24, 48 hours straight you've been working, but their dedication and commitment to making sure that the team was performing was exceptional. I want to acknowledge that Frank Farrell was recently appointed by President Critchlow to permanently head up the Department of Buses as the Executive Vice President. Frank. And to close out the first week on the job, he helped dig out a stuck bus until 2:30 a.m. in the morning. If you look closely at that photograph right there, that's Frank in the middle with a shovel getting snow removed from under that bus. So thank you, Frank.
And Governor Hochul has approved his technique. I just want to, the lady from Buffalo said he's doing it right. Okay, bend the knees.
Frank, we warned you the job wouldn't be easy, but much like the past few months, you've already proven you're up to the task. And the work didn't stop when the storm did. Employees continued throughout the day on Monday to dig out station entrances, stairwells, and platforms to ensure they were safe for riders. And while we strategically placed critical infrastructure at locations where we could quickly deploy for Monday AM rush, there was still plenty of work to clear out rail yards, shops, and depots on Monday. Bill remarked the other day that after the storm, when you were walking around the city on Monday afternoon, subway stations was one of the few areas that we were constantly clear of snow and ice. That's an impressive feat. Thank you, Bill, to the subway team. And paratransit completed more than 10,000 trips across Sunday and Monday. Thank you to all of the employees. It was a massive effort, but you rose to the occasion and kept riders safe and on the move. I'll now turn to our key performance metrics for last month. For subways, December was another strong month for subways, with weekday on-time performance reaching 82.8%, the highest for any December in modern record-keeping outside of COVID. This was despite headwinds that included an unusual incident where a crane boom truck struck the Broadway Bridge on December 17th, affecting the one-line service. An incident of this magnitude might have taken days or weeks for another transit agency to fix, but Subway quickly developed a smart plan to keep trains running through the afternoon rush hour, then work through the night to get normal service back the next morning. Weekend OTP for subways was at 85.3%, which was 1.5 points lower than in November. For buses, bus performance in December 2025 was slightly down when compared to November. However, performance was up across all key metrics when compared to December 2024. The decline from the prior month mainly is due to a couple of weather events and availability through the holiday season. Service delivery remains high at 92.3%, which is up 1.2 percentage points year over year, but down 1.9% percentage points month over month. The customer journey performance, CJTP, was 66.9%, up 1.3 percentage points year over year, but down 1.1 percentage point month over month. And bus speeds continue to increase, up 1.2% year over year, and held steady for the month over month. And finally, paratransit, I'm happy to report that 95.4% of weekday trips made the 30-minute on-time performance threshold. Weekend 30-minute on-time performance hit 97% increase, respectfully. And in December, paratransit delivered 968,000 trips, up 2% from November, bringing the total amount of trips to 11 million in 2025. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Okay, I see Mr. Albert had a question or comment. Mr. Grodno. Mr. Albert.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernard, for that. And one of the reasons for those really, really great numbers, in addition to the superb crew that we have, was the brilliant move to put work trains on the express tracks and run many lines local. And those work trains stored on the express track were able to remove debris, snow, de-ice the third rail, and get snow off on elevated routes. So it was a brilliant move to do that, and whoever came up with that, I think it was wonderful, and thank you so much.
And I mean, just further to that point, a lot of we moved a lot of trains, and this was, Bill and the subways team moved a lot of trains into the tunnels onto the express tracks, so they wouldn't be subject to the risk of delay in the yards, where accumulations of snow historically have impacted our ability to put on service. So that was an effective part of the strategy as well. Mr. Gorodnik.
First, congratulations for keeping it all going in a very, very difficult environment. I wanted to just ask about the bus stops. I recognize this is not an MTA specific, but it affects operations. Reports and also my own observation is that there continue to be bus stops that are not able to be freely accessed because of snow buildup. How are bus drivers managing? What update do we have, if any? And is there anything that we could say about it here?
I mean, I would say this is, Bernard can speak to how bus drivers are managing. We coordinate very closely with sanitation. Everybody knows that this is between, the point was made from the podium that keep making the bus stops accessible for people, whatever their mobility status is both sanitation and the franchisee that operates the bus stop shelters and maintains the bus stop shelters. It's their responsibility. We are actually helping to move sanitation workers around in some cases to try to make sure they can do their work, whether it has to do with bus stops or just moving snow. I think we've been pretty clear with them, and we're closely coordinating. That does not mean that we all of us find the condition of the bus stops acceptable. So especially as we go into this next phase of snow, we're continuing to emphasize to the new City Hall team that this needs to be a priority from the beginning of the storm, not just waiting until the end. So, that discussion is underway. I don't know if there's anybody on our team who wishes to comment further about that. Anybody? Okay. Bernard, can you comment or have Frank comment about how the bus drivers are managing through?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Great question. So several different things. We are in constant communication with our bus operators. They know how to operate in these conditions. Our road supervisors, operators will look for the appropriate location where passengers can board. So as they approach the bus stop, obviously in these conditions, there's a lot of snow and ice buildup at the bus stop. But operators will identify a location. It may just be a cut in the cross cut where customers can board safely, or if they need to make a service stop a little bit distance away from the curb itself to allow folks to safely navigate their way onto the bus. Well, we work closely with sanitation, as the chair mentioned. We've had crews out there actually driving them around to get to locations a little bit quicker, to shovel out the snow at some of the locations, and we're going to continue with that process, as the chair mentioned.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll just add a couple of things to Bernard said. One is bus speeds. Talk about new city hall priorities. We are in dialogue with them about the things they can do to accelerate the process of making buses move faster in New York, whether it's bus lanes, the ACE camera program, or other initiatives. So we're talking to DOT and to City Hall about that. I just want the board to be aware. Too early. We'll obviously give them a chance to make their decisions, and we'll keep folks aware of it. This is the year that, with Frank Farrell in charge, we're going to really try to increase service delivery on the bus system. That hinges in large part, right, Frank, on the condition of the buses. That we have a larger portion of our fleet that is not waiting to be fixed, and so we have a lot of work to do in terms of our maintenance protocols and how we operate our depots to make sure that we don't come up short in the number of buses, because that is what most of the time is driving. I mean, there's sometimes staffing shortages, but mostly it's about how many buses are ready to hit the road. So this is one of the principal goals for the year for New York City Transit and the bus team, and we're gonna look at those numbers very closely from month to month, because we don't have a lot of room to spare. We got to put on service. Okay. Any other comments or questions for the transit team?
Mr. Chairman, it was my understanding that DOT cleans not sanitation, the bus stops, right?
Yeah.
No, and DOT. Right, isn't it both? Frank, is it both?
Yes, DOT actually takes care of the shelters. They have a vendor that does that, and sanitation addresses most of the stops.
Most of the stops. Okay, thank you.
All right, they didn't add TLC to the list, so with a successful colloquy. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Long Island Railroad, Rob, hell of a job. Tell us about it.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Good morning. This past weekend storm was really one for the ages, which included high snow accumulation, strong winds, frozen precipitation, and extreme cold. In spite of all these hazardous conditions, with reports of snow totals as high as 15 inches in our service territory, we operated safe service throughout the storm. A lot of preparation and planning went into this storm, including modifying our train schedules to ensure we would provide safe service for our customers, which is paramount. And I am proud to say our team came through. About 1,800 dedicated employees reported to work to ensure the Long Island Railroad kept moving. Now, these are some numbers. They may not be as impressive as the amount of service that New York City Transit provided, but for a commuter rail, even on a Sunday schedule in the middle of what was close to being a blizzard, was more than other commuter rails would operate on a normal day. On Sunday, in the middle of the storm, we operated over 620 trains, service on 11 of 12 of our branches, with 95% of our trips completed. And on Monday, over 730 trains operated with service on all 12 branches and 98% trips completed. And on Tuesday, we went back to a full schedule with over 930 trains operating and 97.5% of trips completed. Really remarkable numbers considering the storm. And it's really quite a feat, and I cannot thank our incredible employees enough for their Herculean effort. Okay, on to some normal numbers. For December, ridership remained strong at 7.2 million and represents 94% of December 2019 ridership. Commutation ridership increased 11.5% over December of last year, and monthly ticket ridership increased 12% over December of last year. For on-time performance, we achieved a 94.9% on-time performance, which is above goal, was impacted slightly because of some weather events in December as well. So as we've been talking about, it's been quite a winter so far. For safety, we realized a 33% reduction in the customer injury rate and a 14% in the employee injury rate. We constantly work to modernize and expand our system to keep it in a state of good repair and improve our service, which has led us to Queens Interlocking. Queens is a major junction point within our system where 333 trains operate each weekday and joins our Hempstead branch to our main line. This tremendous effort will take place over the course of this year. The upcoming work in February will require service modifications for 3 weekends to allow this modernization effort to take place. Customers should check the website and the Train Time app for the most up-to-date schedule information. Once complete, the improved switch configuration and modernized signal system will provide enhanced routing options, additional capacity, and improve on-time performance through this vital segment of our mainline corridor. Well, my feet are still freezing from this event, by the way. Last month was quite a busy month introducing ADA station improvements at Valley Stream, and just last week we cut the ribbon on new elevators and much more at Laurelton Station. The Valley Stream station work, which in large part was performed by our in-house staff, a tremendous amount of work took place there, not only brought the station complex to a state of good repair, it also beautified and greatly enhanced the customer experience. 3 years of hard work in an amazing makeover, and they're still there working to make even further improvements. Thank you to board members Miller, Leathers, and Herbst, as well as the elected officials and community leaders for attending these exciting events and your continued support. And remember, by the end of this program, the Long Island Railroad will be 95% ADA accessible. Lastly, I wanted to take a moment to highlight some of the remarkable work at the Long Island Railroad during 2025. To start, we operated a lot of trains. 321,198 trains, the most we've ever operated. Total ridership for the year was 81,946,669 riders, excuse me, too many sixes in there, which represents about an 8.5% growth over last year and about 6.5 million more customers than 2024. 2025 total ridership represented 90% of 2019 ridership. Beginning in July, we were at or above 90% ridership for the remainder of the year. And in fact, September, we actually hit 98% of 2019 ridership. Throughout the year, many ridership records were broken, and both post-pandemic and historic ridership records as well. To properly maintain our system, we implemented 118 special programs just to perform state of good repair work. And counting that in our regular day-to-day maintenance, over 95% of scheduled outages were taken. Now, with that many trains, track time is at a premium, and to achieve 95% to keep our system in a state of good repair is really a miracle and shows what a priority it is at the Long Island Railroad. Now, with all this ridership, train service, and maintenance, we ended 2025 with a total on-time performance of 96.17%, our best on-time performance in recorded history outside of 1 year of COVID. And as I always say, COVID was like Barry Bonds. There's an asterisk next to it. It doesn't count. In addition, we were able to deliver all this while being fiscally responsible and more efficient, realizing $71 million in operating efficiencies, and also knowing that our onboard fare collection is vital to our sustainability. We achieved a fare not collected rate of 2.9%, meaning 97.1% of fares were collected, our best since we've been recording this mark. What a year. I'd like to thank the amazing team at the Long Island Railroad. It's because of them we were able to achieve all this. And for more information on our year, it can be found in the book. And that concludes my remarks, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
All right, and I just got to, for all of us, got a tip of the hat to our friend Mr. Leathers, who right on this board represents the workforce of Long Island Railroad. Any comments? Mr. Chu.
I just want to, I know the numbers are there, but its customer satisfaction is up, I think, over 10% year over year. Ridership is up, on-time performance is up, and to do all that to have all those metrics improve to the extent they have over a year period is just remarkable. It's really incredible. So I just want a big shout out for everyone, for the entire team.
Anyone else? Mr. Mack was trying to be recognized earlier. If you're still on the line, Mr. Mack, this might be a good moment. Okay. Okay, we'll leave it. Mr. Mack, you're muted. Unmute. All right.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just got to compliment Bridges and Tunnels. They did an excellent job, better than other bridges and tunnels in other states. As you know, I'm always on the road, and I got to compliment our president and all of the workers. Thank you.
Well, I got a question for you, Mr. Mack. What happened to Nice Bus?
Say that again, I didn't hear.
Well, I'm just saying, like, the Nassau County bus system struggled. I don't think I think they threw in the towel. So talk to your friends, okay? We need the connection.
I had dinner with Bruce, our county executive, and I will bring it to his attention.
You bet. Thank you. Moving on. The Metro North, another achievement.
All right, thank you, Chair. Good morning. I will brief you on Winter Storm Fern, which dropped upwards of 2 feet in areas across our territory, and with some of the snow drifts, it was well over 3 feet. And with that, the freezing temperatures continue throughout this week, so still a lot to be done with this storm. But not surprisingly, our employees once again rose to the challenge and delivered for the region when it mattered most. We started preparations early in the week, and through constant coordination, teams from transportation, maintenance away, maintenance of equipment, stations, and service design developed and executed a plan that put our customers in the region first, despite the extraordinary conditions. We tested and confirmed over 400 pieces of snow fighting equipment, including rail-bound jet blowers, were all in good working order. This also included additional testing and maintenance of over 550 switch heaters in the days leading up to the storm. We pre-treated stations, yards, and parking lots. And we knew early on that we needed to deliver a service plan that was reliable and our customers could count on. On Sunday, we provided hourly service on the main line and normal branch service, switching to 2 hourly at 6 p.m. And on Monday, we delivered our Saturday schedule with additional trains in both the AM and PM peak. In total, over the course of 2 days, we delivered over 850 trains with only 40 delayed trains. Our service delivered rate for these 2 days was 99%. And despite the severe weather, customers showed up. On Sunday, we saw roughly 30% of our normal Sunday ridership and about 23% on Monday. This just highlights the essential service that we provide at the MTA. And starting early on, in partnership with customer comms and press, we communicated our service plan to our customers. As the storm rolled in on Sunday, we were ready and the team executed the plan flawlessly with over 1,300 employees on property during the storm. Our situation room was open first thing Sunday morning to ensure coordination with all departments. And personnel across the railroad reported in conditions in progress to allow for more informed decision-making around critical infrastructure and rolling stock-related issues. In the end, we kept trains moving safely and reliably with no major delays or disruptions, operating through upwards of 2 feet of snow in some areas of the territory. Again, our success is the result of thorough planning, preparation, and flawless execution by a team who take pride in what they do. Quite simply, we showed up when the region needed us most. I am immensely proud of what this team has once again accomplished, and we thank them for their hard work and dedication and another exceptional job well done. But I do want to highlight, however, the work is not done. As I mentioned, the railroad is buried in 2+ feet of snow throughout. This causes many issues for the rolling stock and infrastructure. Employees have been working tirelessly since the beginning of the storm in severe weather and frigid temperatures, and we don't see signs of relief anytime soon. We appreciate our customers' patience as we work through these severe weather conditions. All right, moving on to the normal business. So as Rob mentioned, this month we are slated to report out on our full 2025 operations year in review. However, due to today's condensed format, the full report could be found online. So starting with safety, for the 12-month period ending November 2025, Metro North safety performance remained strong. The reportable customer injury rate was 1.52 per million customers. The reportable lost time injury rate was 1.73 per 200,000 working hours, and there were 0 reportable grade crossing incidents in 2025. And ridership continues to remain strong. January ridership generally dips after the holidays, and last weekend's storm also impacted ridership. Despite all of that, last week's weekday ridership was 220,000 plus, 6.8% higher than that same week in 2025. And looking back at 2025, ridership was another area of success. In 2025, we delivered 71.4 million rides, up 6% from 2024. Compare that to less than 1% per year of growth from 2010 to 2019. We also reached 82.5% of 2019 ridership for the year. And Metro North's fall ridership surged, with average weekday ridership rising to 237,000 between Labor Day and Christmas. Leaf Peeper trains reached 109% of October 2019 weekend ridership, and Shopper Specials also set weekend records this past December. And 2 high points for last year's ridership are the Bronx and the Waterbury branch. City ticket expansion swelled Bronx ridership within New York City to 116% of 2019. Ridership to and from Bronx stations is at 107% for travel throughout our territory, with some Bronx stations pushing upwards of 150%. And Waterbury branch ridership reached 147% of 2019 levels. And for the 6th consecutive year, Metro North's on-time performance was above 97%, as we finished 2025 with an OTP of 97.8%. We know that safe, reliable service is one of the most important drivers of both ridership recovery and customer satisfaction. And so far in 2026, aside from the extreme weather conditions we've been facing, our OTP is about 98%. So this level of performance is no accident. It is the result of extensive planning, dedication, and sustained focus. Behind the scenes, our teams are working proactively to balance the operation of more than 700 weekday trains in all weather conditions, while also performing essential right-of-way inspections, maintenance work, and capital upgrades. We have taken a series of proactive measures to support the consistently high on-time performance, including innovative approaches to project work, the use of advanced data analytics and scheduling tools, fleet-specific reliability initiatives to minimize equipment breakdowns, and improve coordination to significantly reduce delays from track work, capital projects, and police-related incidents. So while safe, frequent, and reliable service are top of mind for our customers, we also know they value their time. In 2025, we implemented our Super Express service on the Hudson and New Haven lines, and here you can see just how much time we saved our customers. Customers currently see 5 of the 6 New Haven line Super Expresses operating in 90 minutes or less, saving riders up to 25 minutes per trip, travel time savings equating to roughly 9 days of safe commuting per year. Additionally, 6 Poughkeepsie line express trains are operating in under 90 minutes, saving riders up to 14 minutes per day and 3 full days per year. These significant runtime improvements result from targeted infrastructure upgrades, including signal system enhancements and optimized train routing. Employee engagement is central to Metro North's success. In 2025, we invested significant time and effort in connecting with and engaging our workforce. Engagement efforts included the longstanding programs such as the President's and Team Excellence Awards, but we also have new initiatives such as employee engagement events, bi-monthly employee engagement days, and quarterly labor management meetings. Together, these efforts reinforce a simple truth: an engaged workforce is a safe and productive workforce. We look forward to building on this momentum in 2026. 2025 was also a big year for customer engagement. Working jointly with Amy Pitt's team in the Office of the Customer, we ramped up our social media efforts, which delighted customers and delivered these impressive results. Everyone loved conductor Steve's rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which promoted our Yankee game service. And of course, our veteran locomotive post won the year for the most posts with over 1 million impressions on Instagram. And over 2,600 people attended our New Haven open house in October, and we held monthly Connect With Us events throughout the territory. And finally, after a several-year hiatus, we relaunched our customer newsletter Milepost. The digital version is another way to communicate with customers about what is happening at Metro North. All right, so now I'll provide a brief report out for both railroads on the new fare and ticketing changes that went into effect on January 4th. So early data shows the new fare products are putting money back in our customers' pockets. So what are we seeing 3 short weeks in? By extending reduced fare validity and introducing the day pass and free ticket redemption, customers on both railroads have already saved almost $3.1 million. This table shows a breakdown by fare product. On reduced fare, we sold roughly 273,000 tickets since January 4th. Compared to expected growth, reduced fare mobile tickets sales in the morning peak grew 5 times faster on Metro North and 8 times faster on Long Island. This has saved reduced fare riders $2.5 million so far. 220,000 day passes have also been sold, saving customers $450,000. And customers are receiving free rides. Almost 2.5% of M&R customers and over 3.5% of Long Island riders have redeemed an 11th free ride, saving them just under $200,000 in just 3 weeks. And the new one-way activation rules are also helping to change customers' behaviors, with more customers having their mobile tickets purchased, activated, and ready for customers. The same-day activation rate for one-way tickets is up nearly 10%. And while warnings and surcharges have been issued as important deterrents to late activations, less than 1% of rides have resulted in a surcharge. And I'm proud to announce that 4 employees at Metro North are being honored by Progressive Railroading Magazine as Women of Influence in Rail. Robin Hollander in the category of Sustainability, Liz Hotez in the category of Leadership, Raquel Perez-Watson in the category of Innovation, and Zhaojing Wei in the category of Technology. I can tell you firsthand, if not for their contributions, we would not be as successful as we are. Thank you to these 4 women for their outstanding contributions to Metro North and the rail industry. And moving on from leaders in the industry to those leaving the industry, I would like to recognize 2 outstanding individuals and thank them for their extraordinary service as they begin new chapters in their lives. Tony Chiefel will be retiring from Metro North after 24 years of dedicated service. Tony began his career as a signal test maintainer on the New Haven line and rose to Executive Director, Communication and Signal and Positive Train Control in our Maintenance Away Department. And he was a huge piece of getting Metro North ready for positive train control. And I'm deeply grateful for his expertise and leadership and the professionalism that he brought to Metro North over the years. And we also celebrate the remarkable career of Eric Beerwald, who is retiring after an extraordinary 58 years of service. I recently had the pleasure of speaking with Eric and hearing his reflections on how the railroad has evolved over the past 6 decades. Metro North is profoundly grateful for Eric's lifetime of service, wishing both of these men a long and enjoyable retirement. So 2 other things, if I could share. As part of Amtrak's Portal North Bridge cutover, New Jersey Transit will implement temporary schedule adjustments on the Port Jervis and Pascack Valley lines from February 15th through March 14th. The cutover is a key milestone in the Gateway program and is essential for long-term reliability and capacity improvements along the Northeast Corridor. Most schedule adjustments are under 10 minutes, with some trains operating 10 to 16 and a few up to 13 minutes earlier. Customers should check the NJT website for schedules and the most up-to-date information.
Hey, Justin, did the West of Hudson service come back yesterday?
It is back. It's back now, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And one last thing, I'm sure everybody's seen it in the press at this point, but yesterday Governor Hochul announced that Amtrak is restoring service to Albany this spring and will not authorize Metro North service to Albany and the Hudson Valley north of Poughkeepsie at this time. So Governor Hochul correctly noted that excitement generated by the announcement of Metro North service to Albany, and while we are disappointed that we will not provide service as initially planned, we are ready and able to provide our safe, reliable, and very affordable service to Albany in the near future to meet that demand. That's it, Chair.
Okay. Justin, great job also. And thank you for the combined stats with the railroad about what we're achieving with the new fare program, because I think, that adjustment has been complicated, but and not without challenges. But we want folks to understand that we're part of the benefit is saving money with some new fare policies as well. Questions or comments for either of our railroad friends? Okay. Blanca, I'm sorry. Blanca Lopez.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Simply a comment to Justin and Rob. Thank you so much for the briefing. Obviously, with Fern, there was a lot of prep work. There was a lot of work to be done during the storm and after. And I am very appreciative, and I received actually a lot of compliments for the work that the MTA crew did in clearing the properties and the stations and the parking lots and the sidewalks. That has always been a point of concern, especially in Portchester. So we appreciate the fact that the sidewalks were cleared. Commuters did not have an issue walking to the station or, going up to the platform. So we appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Mr. Leathers.
Based on the reporting, we've had a tremendous year in 2025. I just want to salute the workforce, the labor force across all MTA for the hard work that they've executed in helping us to realize our achievements. I want to salute the agency heads for recognizing the employees in December. There were various initiatives to celebrate the labor force, whether it was a party, whether it was a train. I just want to say thank you. It was well attended, and it was appreciated. So thank you.
And the GWI, right? It's a good thing, too. So Justin, among other things, described the late-breaking news that Governor Hochul, let's just acknowledge that it was her pressure saying to Amtrak, we need you to provide full service in the Hudson Valley. And when they said, well, we can't, we're going to cut service, she said, okay, we'll do it. And that seems to have yielded a reversal of Amtrak's decision that they could not provide the service to Albany that Hudson Valleyers are expected. But we also, so we appreciate that the governor's initiative played out, and she's instructed us to keep planning for this because there seems to be some interest in maybe Metro North, perhaps because we're usually half the cost of Amtrak, right? Continuing to plan for the possibility of at some future date providing that service north or some version of service north of Poughkeepsie. So Justin and team are continuing their work on that. Although, and I know that that Mr. Leather's colleague, Ed Valenti, was, oh my God, he comes right in. Good timing, pal. But we're talking about Metro North to Albany and the fact that the governor's initiative kind of paid off in the sense that they did restore service, but that Metro North is going to continue to explore and plan for and be ready if there is interest and opportunity for that in the future. And I know you've been involved with that as well. So I invite you to, if you're comfortable, to comment on that issue as well.
Yeah, I'm very interested in service to Albany. We're very excited about it at Metro North when we were called upon to fill that gap. My members are enthusiastic. We've committed a lot of time and training and efforts to get ready to take the call to run up there. The passengers have been very excited, enthusiastic for an affordable option to run up there. So I don't think there's any reason why we can't run in tandem with Amtrak. I think we should work towards that goal. And I hope that, and I know that the governor's office is looking to provide good service, affordable service. So I trust that we'll make that happen.
Anyway, all right. Thanks again. Mr. Albert.
So initially, Amtrak gave work in the East River tunnels as the reason they had to suspend some of these runs to Albany and upstate New York. Does this now imply that they're speeding up that process in the East River tunnels and it'll be done earlier than later?
I haven't done a forensic analysis of Amtrak's motivations and rationale. I think as we got closer to the scheduled date for Metro North to begin service, they found a way. I don't know more than they found a way to provide the service that they said initially was impossible, absolutely impossible to provide. I guess that they didn't really want Mr. Valenti they wanted him to stay in Connecticut or south of Poughkeepsie. So we'll find out over time. What else? Anybody else on this topic or any other? Okay. Well, thank you again, Justin, for everything you and your team accomplished this year. But Kathy Sheridan was making sure that Mr. Matt could get around on the bridges and tunnels. And now we'll hear from her.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. So as you may have heard a couple times this morning, we had a winter storm. Winter Storm Fern came in strong this past weekend with steady snow and sleet touching down across the region, followed by this prolonged period of below freezing temperatures. While traffic fortunately remained light, those who had to travel across our bridges and tunnels found roadways that were consistently plowed, de-iced, safe, and most importantly, open throughout the duration of the storm. Among the protocols in place during an extreme weather event is echelon formation snow plowing, as you'll see in this video. So here at the Throgs Neck Bridge, you see 6 B&T plow trucks, followed by 2 B&T wreckers that respond to any disabled vehicles or vehicles that are stuck, followed by 2 MTA PD patrol vehicles, keeping traffic a safe distance from our snow removal operation. The collaboration between our plow staff, wrecker drivers, and MTA PD was impressive to witness, and I want to thank MTA PD for their support. I want to acknowledge our frontline employees and our teams working behind the scenes, such as fleet, tolling, security, and the command center, for a job well done during sustained, challenging conditions. This kind of successful emergency response is the direct result of best practices, preparedness, training, and dedication. For 23 continuous hours, B&T employees plowed 11,000 miles of roadway and spread 2,800 tons of de-icer and are now continuing refreeze prevention. Yesterday, our crews in the south also assisted DOT by clearing a mile of the 6-mile HOV lane on the Gowanus Expressway, removing the snowbanks covering the movable barrier wall and applying de-icer, allowing that HOV lane to reopen this morning. We also want to thank our customers who heeded our advanced messaging by staying off the roads, allowing us to efficiently and safely manage snow operations with minimal collisions. Well done to the entire team. So our originally scheduled programming was to do a deep dive into 2025 performance, so we're just going to give you a little teaser for what February will look like. 2025 was one for the history books, with the start of tolling in the congestion relief zone kicking off the year. Under the leadership of Governor Hochul and Chair Lieber, this was a huge achievement for New York and the MTA. The results are bearing out. The predictions, reduced congestion, and the promise of steady revenue to fund critical mass transit projects, plus improved safety within the zone. B&T delivered another year of record-breaking toll revenue and support to MTA mass transit. Preliminary year-end data shows our toll facilities collected a record $3.3 billion in revenue, and traffic levels reached 339 million vehicle crossings. Total support to MTA mass transit, including from the CRZ, is $2.2 billion. Even with consistently high traffic volumes, averaging over 930,000 daily crossings, collisions continued their downward trend. Compared to 2024, total collisions per million crossings declined by 12%, and injury-related collisions decreased by 17%, demonstrating the effectiveness of ongoing safety initiatives. Our MTA C&D partners have contributed to these lasting reductions through projects such as roadway widening at the Verrazano Narrows Bridge and roadway realignment at the Bronx Whitestone Bridge. B&T Facility Management is responsible for activities that keep our crossings safe and our traffic moving. An initiative in 2025 that we started was bringing work in-house instead of going to capital projects. In-house cost savings efforts by our intelligent transportation systems and central maintenance divisions have resulted in savings of more than $5 million. We will ramp this up more in 2026. and we will go into more detail on these initiatives next month. Enforcement against ghost plates and persistent toll violators remains strong, and I'm pleased to report the ongoing smooth transition of the MTA police supplementing our patrols, which again you'll learn more about in February. In 2025, we are proud to mark 4 milestone anniversaries at the Hugh L. Carey and Queens Midtown Tunnels, the Cross Bay Veterans Memorial Bridge, and the launch of Easy Pass. On the subject of anniversaries, January 11th marked the 65th anniversary of the opening of the Throgsneck Bridge, a critical link in the regional transportation network. I encourage anyone passing through Grand Central Terminal to view the current exhibit in the Vanderbilt Passage, curated by our special archive team, and as always, I thank our Metro North partners for their support. Finally, there are no procurements this month for B&T, and this concludes our report.
Thanks, Kathy. Anything for bridges and tunnels? Among other things, it was, this was the first time since we've been transitioning some of the MTA PD into the management of the enforcement function on the bridges in a major storm. And that was one of the signal successes of this, how smoothly things worked, since we've transferred some of those responsibilities over to the PD. So I thought that was well done as well. It needs to be acknowledged. Okay, so we're going to do some financial news from Jay Patel, the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start with a brief overview of our operating results for 2025. In short, 2025 closed out largely as planned, with favorable timing of revenues and continued discipline on controllable costs. As a reminder, these results are preliminary and subject to final audit. On a net basis, preliminary operating results through year-end December were $766 million favorable compared to the November financial plan. Included in that is $500 million of casino license fees, which were not planned for 2025. So excluding that $500 million fees, which I'll talk about a little bit more a little later on, year-to-date results were still $266 million favorable. Let's talk about operating revenues. Operating revenues through December were modestly unfavorable by $50 million, or less than 1%. This included $25 million of passenger revenue. Bus passenger revenue at Transit and MTA Bus was slightly below forecast. However, Subway was on budget, while Metro North and Long Island Railroad outperformed our forecasts, mostly driven by higher than expected ridership in the fall. Overall, these variances were small and within plan. Subsidies directed to the operating budget were $181 million favorable year to date. This was due to stronger than forecasted payroll mobility, urban taxes, and slightly mortgage recording tax. Turning to the expense side, operating expenses through December were $108 million favorable, or less than 1%. When we focus on costs within our control, we were very much on budget, in large part due to the hard work of our operating agencies. The MTA implemented $500 million in recurring annual operating efficiencies while continuing to expand and improve service. These savings were intentionally initiated to ensure that the MTA was part of the overall solution to balancing our operating budgets in a challenging fiscal environment. Labor, including fringe benefits, were favorable, but offset by some non-labor expenses, which were higher than expected in some categories, including the requirement to adjust our claims accrual based on actuarial reports. Taken together, these preliminary results indicate that we closed out 2025 on track with the November financial plan, which the board approved in December. As many of you know, in December, the New York State Gaming Commission awarded 3 downstate New York City casino licenses. As a result, the MTA received $500 million in licensing fees at the year end from the first license, earlier than anticipated, since these revenues had been budgeted for receipt in 2026. In January of 26, the MTA received an additional $1 billion upfront license fees from the other 2 operators, also ahead of schedule, as these receipts had been budgeted for 27 and 28. These are one-time upfront revenues, and the receipt of these funds are already included in our 26 to 29 financial plan the board approved. Okay, that was the operating results. I'll move on to a little bit on the capital and debt service. Against operating backdrop, our capital market activity continue to support both affordability and delivery of the capital program. Each year, we summarize this work and provide a forward look at year-end review report. That report will be delivered at Finance Committee next month by Olga for full, but I'll give you a couple of highlights. Last year, we strengthened our ability to deliver the authorized funding for the 20 to 24 capital program, including the launch of a new real estate transfer tax bond credit for $1.6 billion, and approval of the congestion relief zone bond resolution. Continued operation of the CRZ program remains essential to fully funding the $15 billion of the capital program. Our credit profile was further reinforced by transportation revenue bond rating upgrades for Moody's and S&P, which enabled additional savings through refinancing. Looking ahead, we project issuing approximately $5.6 billion in new debt finance to finance capital projects, while repaying $2.1 billion in 2026. Total outstanding debt is expected to increase to $48 billion. However, debt service supported by the operating budget will still remain about 15% of the operating budget. And closing out the finance report, I'll give a small update on congestion relief. I do every month. Going forward, that will be folded into the B&T committee reports going forward, but I'll give the year-end report to close out finance. This month marked the first anniversary of Central Business District tolling program. In its first year, the program reduced vehicle entries into the congestion relief zone by 27 million, or 11%. It increased crossing speeds by up to 51%, contributed to a 7% increase in transit ridership. The program also reduced pollution in the zone by 22%, crashes by 7%, and traffic-related injuries by 8%, all while generating more than $562 million in net revenue, exceeding the $500 million target and providing dedicated funding for critical transit investments. So taken together, 2025 played out largely as planned. In parallel, the MTA continues to deliver additional operating efficiencies, approximately $75 million initially in 2026, growing to $250 million annually by 2029, reinforcing our commitment to financial discipline while preserving long-term operating and capital sustainability. That concludes my report.
Questions or comments? Mr. Chu.
So now that we're a year in congestion pricing, and I was happy to be at the congestion pricing anniversary party, and it was a great event, but there was no cake. So I would expect on the second anniversary party we have a cake, even if it is at the YMCA at a gym. You know, we've had a lot of conversation about, you know, the necessity, you know, to bond. And you mentioned some figures that we're continuing with that program. Where are we 1 year later? Now that I think by all accounts we could say, you know, we crushed it with congestion pricing. You know, where does that outlook look now compared to where we were a year ago when everything was in projection?
Yeah. So, you know, based on our projections and actuals, right, through a full year of congestion relief revenue, we had projected $500 million for 2025. The results actually came in a bit higher. There were $562 million in net revenue. That was slightly because of a little bit more revenue, but actually we had, through our own efficiencies, cost within the program, in-house staff, was lower than we had projected. So that's sort of the net 62 million that I'll say it's above the projection. You know, on the bonding side, we're using that as pay-go right now for the capital program. We have about $5 billion of projects committed through the congestion relief revenue source. We've always said that we would bond out that, the credit sometime this year as the revenues season out. But also, we want the final decision, right, from the decision on congestion relief.
I mean,
So financially,
it will be helpful to our position in the credit market to bond this credit.
Yeah.
If there is a final resolution on the litigation,
Yes.
and that's one, it just happens to be something we're going for
so
today.
the strength of the finances is there. We just have to get through the Fugazi lawsuits and all that stuff.
Agree.
Right, okay. I have one other question on the, and it was in the, and it's something I hadn't considered, so thank you, that Janel mentioned in his Janel log at the beginning of the, with the insurance, which is a big deal. And, you know, you mentioned it, I think that it impacts, I'm just thinking of numbers for municipalities, all the state, right? Because I worked in layers of government, and it was a big deal, these liabilities. So I would just appreciate, because as we have, as the session begins and we're having conversations about all things, now this is on our radar, it'd be great if we could start to understand that, and we've talked about it before, but for us to really understand as board members the impact that could have in terms of mitigating, you know, the high side of our exposure to that.
Yeah, we can start putting that together.
Okay, but let's not miss the opportunity to make sure everyone understands what's at stake. In the middle of your presentation, you said we made adjustments to the reserves based on actuarial projections. Bureaucratic, correct? Finance words? The bottom line is and this is something that Paige and I have talked about and we have to deal with, is that our torts expenses for all these lawsuits are going up so quickly that literally the actuaries, the professionals, are saying you have to set aside more money for this. And in the year when we're going back into the cycle of new labor negotiations, I point out to my friends representing labor here that the governor proposed these changes to the auto insurance laws, you know, not obviously because, first and foremost, because she wants New Yorkers to pay less for auto insurance. It's $4,000 a person on average. By the way, that's like, yeah. So $4,000 a person or a car or a person on average for auto insurance in New York, and it's among the highest in the country. But there is also a subsidiary benefit to the MTA and to all governments that have this exposure, because the way the auto insurance law works, that, you know, we got a lot of people buzzing around on e-bikes and all kinds of vehicles, and we get into even a minor traffic accident can yield a mega lawsuit. And sometimes, you know, the system yields windfalls that may be undeserved, and we're exposed if we're found even 1% liable. So the city of New York has you know, sanitation trucks and police cars and fire trucks that are in the same position, and they spend a lot of money on this too. But our buses are the subject of constant lawsuits, and it affects our overall economics. So that's why I'm calling it to the attention of our brothers representing the workforce. So we should all be focused on this. That's a big thing for us and for the governor in this legislative session. Goes first and foremost to the affordability agenda, but also to the MTA's budget. I saw that Ms. Mahaltzis had her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jay, thank you. I have two questions. Final expenses for congestion pricing? I couldn't find it.
Yeah, so we rolled it here. I'll get that for you. I don't have
Kathy,
it.
do you know it offhand? Because it was your team that managed that, the cost of implementation.
I don't have it off the top of my head.
I think it was 30 million below projections. Am I mistaken? I'm pretty sure that was the number.
That's great if that's the,
Okay.
that's the case. And two, under operating revenue, what's going on with buses? Is that fare evasion?
So a little bit of it is fare evasion. We'd seen a little bit less paid ridership than we had in previous months. It's about $24 million unfavorable to our projections. We continue to work with buses, right, on the fare evasion initiatives, and we've lowered fare evasion within buses, but we continue to struggle with fare evasion.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to be heard on finance matters? Anybody? Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Jay, and thank you for bringing us to a very successful year from a financial standpoint. We're going to do the audit committee right now. Monica, take it away.
Good morning, Chair and members. I'll provide a brief 2025 year-end status and the 2026 proposed audit plan. This presentation is abbreviated from the materials in the committee book. I'm focusing on our operations and contracts groups. I do want to acknowledge that we also cover other areas and have auditors dedicated to reviewing the accuracy of retiree pension payment calculations and onboard auditors who ride our commuter rails to ensure proper fare collection and conductor compliance, logging over 6,000 rides last year. We also have a group who is responsible for reviewing Sandy-funded projects for adherence to federal guidelines in partnership with the Office of the Inspector General. More information on those results are in the committee materials. In 2025, we completed 80 operational audits and reviews touching financial, operational, and technology areas, and identified $11.5 million in potential savings and cost efficiencies. Our contract group completed 830 contract-related reviews, covering $165 million in audited costs, of which $11.9 million were found to be question costs. We typically see a 90% correct collection rate on question costs. The mix of reviews include pre-award, overhead reviews, contract closeouts, claims, and engineering audit officer audits. Those EAO reviews cover city-funded capital projects. Now turning to our plan for 2026. When developing our audit plan, we prioritized areas based on financial exposure, the nature of MTA operations, control activities, results from previous audits, and input we received from management, our agency presidents, the chair, and the board. Over 3 months, we conducted 98 formal interviews and had many more internal discussions. We received 179 suggestions to inform our plan. We track major milestones, solicit feedback, and remain responsive to the public and this board's concerns. We keep the plan flexible so we can respond to emerging needs and pivot to include new matters as they may arise throughout the year. Something happened to that pie chart. Approximately 87 audits are planned for 2026. These cover all MTA agencies and the core functions. MTA-wide, they cover safety, service, and delivery, alongside a number of procurement, HR, finance, and IT reviews. Some of the issues we intend to probe: are jobs functions performed as intended? How are our facilities functioning? Is agency equipment properly maintained? Are third-party contracts adhered to? What are our standards, and are we meeting those standards? Are we receiving revenue as expected? Are we following our policies? We will be reviewing the congestion relief zone and Omni programs. We always look at overtime, and this year, we are supporting the agencies in spot checking time and attendance. We have a number of bus depot reviews in our plan, as well as facilities at B&T, stations, and we look at safety at all our agencies. In sum, we plan on raising the bar from 2025. We are proud of the work completed last year, but we want to do more in 2026. We are proposing 87 audits across all agencies, prioritized by exposure, controls, past results, management input, and stakeholder feedback. We do this all to support the operations so that we can keep improving oversight and performance where it matters most. Chair, that's my report. We have additional materials in our committee book for review, including more results for 2025 and information on internal controls and audit recommendations. With me is Kostas Makrakis, our partner Deloitte, who is here to discuss the third quarter financials.
Thank you, Auditor General, and good morning to everyone. My name is Kostas Makrakis, and I am the Deloitte MTA Lead Client Service Managing Director. My only remarks today is for the review of the MTA's interim consolidated financial statements as of and for the 9-month period ended September 30, 2025. For a brief status, we received the financial statements and provided our comments to management, which were addressed. We are currently in the process of completing the remaining review procedures to issue a review report. We expect to do so in the coming weeks. A review of interim financial information consists primarily of analytical procedures and making inquiries of those responsible for financial and accounting matters. A review is substantially less in scope than an audit. The objective of an audit is to express an opinion on financial information. Accordingly, we do not express such an opinion after a review. Based on the review procedures performed at this time, we are not aware of any material modifications that should be made to the interim consolidated financial statements in order for them to be in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the U.S. That concludes my remarks for the review of the quarterly financial statements.
Okay, I think that's what we want to hear from the auditor, right? We have no comments. I want no material comments. Okay, but just clarify process-wise, Monica, when do we receive the final version of the year-end audit?
We'll have the report issued to the board this week.
Okay. One thing I would say, it's like, this is not a super high profile in this forum, our auditing function, but Monica's team points out ways we can save money. And I really appreciate that because, not a secret, a lot of our auditors say, you didn't cross an I, you didn't cross a T, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, which is like more bureaucratic make work. But this team focuses on how we can save money or how we should take advantage of opportunities to save money. That is, I think, the most valuable thing that you can do. So thank you to Monica and an acknowledgement to the Deloitte people who are paid for their professional opinion. Anyway, any comments or questions for the auditors? All right, we're all going to read that report, and then we're going to send you a lot of comments. Jamie, speaking
Yes,
of
Chair.
numbers, you want to talk about the commitments for the year?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I'm just going to ask, we're going to have a special presentation on transit-oriented development, so we might ask you to vacate that seat, sir, unless you have some comments on our capital work. Good morning, everyone. So I don't have a major agency snowstorm update today from C&D, but I am very proud that we were able to get our contractors out of the way of our operating partners so that they were able to do what they needed to do. Might mean we have a couple slips of a couple of days on a couple of projects because we weren't able to give them access, but it was certainly well worth it. And we have a great working relationship with our operating partners and are always there to help them out when they need us. You see here amazing steel repair in the 8th Avenue line tunnel that took place a couple weeks ago on the Upper West Side. I'm going to get to this a little later in the presentation when we talk about our line structure repair work, but the number of defects that we find in these tunnels and the need to repair them, just for reference, this is what when we shut down service on a line for a weekend, this is what we're doing. We're surging contractors and workers into those tunnels to fix those defects so that the tunnels don't fall down. And we always encourage everyone to subscribe to our This Week in Construction newsletter, which you can find the link to online because we featured this in a recent issue, and there's lots of really useful information in there. So before I get to regular report for the Capital Program Committee. I want to start with an update on what C&D achieved in 2025. Just to bring everybody back, this time last year, we had no approved capital plan, no funding, and of course, congestion relief was in its infancy. There were big questions about whether we had the support to fund a major state of good repair capital program. And the board will recall that this hung on two big questions. Did we really need the money? And could we deliver on what we were promising in the plan if we were given the funds? A year later, these questions have been answered with a resounding yes. The governor and the state legislature stepped up yet again and fully funded the 25 to 29 plan. Accepting the rigorous 20-year needs assessment that we did that demonstrated that we need to keep investing in the state of good repair of our $1.5 trillion system. And of course, we've heard that congestion relief has been a great success. Today, I can report in response to the second question, could we deliver on what we were promising, that we are holding up our end of the bargain, hitting critical milestones to get contracts out the door and deliver on the improvements that our system needs. And this really sums it up. When it comes to getting work started to invest in the system, these are our 2025 contract commitments, a record $15.8 billion in contract awards in 1 year. This more than doubles our 5-year average since 2020, which in turn has been a big step change from prior decades. The governor and the legislature in 2025 committed to the capital program, and part of that was an understanding that we have to deliver at about this pace. So we've set up our agency to do just that. And a lot of you have heard in a lot of detail how we've done that. We've focused relentlessly on value engineering, building only what we have to, and finding innovative ways to deliver to save time and money in coordination with our agency partners. We've added key staff, and we continue to do that, and we've reduced reliance on consultants. We've seen, we read all these studies. We agree. It's important that we build our in-house capacity, and we've been doing just that. We've put a lot of cutting-edge technology in place to manage not just the technology that goes in the system, technology to manage projects. The construction industry is historically an unproductive industry. It hasn't advanced with technology, and we're on the cutting edge of that now, implementing systems to do that. We've moved to alternative delivery models like design-build, public-private partnerships with a lot of incentives and sharing of risk, and we've really become an owner of choice, dealing with contractors in a way that is tough but fair. And I think if you ask contractors out there, they will say that, and that's a reason that they can predictably keep working for the MTA. That record commitment number, $15.8 billion overall, includes $5 billion, as Jay said, that we've already awarded of projects made possible by the proceeds from congestion relief. So what are some of those projects? Signal upgrades. We awarded at the end of last year, this board approved it, including the transformative CBTC on Fulton and Liberty lines in Brooklyn and Queens, the A and the C, 42.7 track miles. This project will also get our customers cell service underground throughout the line through a partnership with Bolden. Our signal projects that we've awarded in the last year are 33% cheaper per mile than previous generations of CBTC because of all the innovation that we brought into it. And next up for CBTC, also funded by congestion relief, this year, the 6th Avenue line, the B, the D, the F, the M, including the 63rd Street Tunnel to Queens, which will include dealing with the infamous delays at DeKalb interlocking and also complete CBTC for the whole F line. We awarded the tunneling contract, as Jano noted, for the 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2 project. We cut $100 million in labor savings from this contract alone. That's part of the $1.3 billion in savings in Phase 2 that we've identified. And we're advancing the first 2 contracts on time and on budget for this project. We're on track to bring Contract 3 to the board in the next couple of months, though, as was noted earlier, we need a restoration of certainty from the federal government in order to do that. And that's another one of those things that the academics out there say, predictability of funding is what's key to keeping a big capital program like this afloat. We're doing everything we can. We need predictability of funding. There's no reason that the federal government has cut off funding for Second Avenue Subway, that they haven't restarted it, and we need that predictability of funding to keep this project going on time and on budget, something that the federal government is also demanding of us. We also, another congestion pricing awards, awarded 3 packages of ADA work across 7 stations in 4 boroughs, and there are 16 more stations that will be made ADA accessible just from congestion pricing funds. Brought these projects in $22 million below what we estimated they were going to cost. And turning to the 25 to 29 program, with it approved in the spring, we immediately got to work to award rolling stock purchases. 378 of the R268 cars were funded by the new plan. The 25 to 29 plan, we'll talk about this more next month. It's 90% launched, and I want to remind you that it is 4% cheaper on a real dollar basis than the previous plan, but a lot more work is getting done because we're doing it better, faster, and cheaper. Another early commitment from 25 to 29 is kickoff of the Interborough Express. The design and engineering of that project kicked off officially this summer, and that is in full gear. We're excited about partnerships that we'll be able to put in place with the city, the new administration, to get this project moving. So that's our commitments. That's one thing, but we're also ramping up project completions. We got to actually get these things built. We got $6.7 billion in project completions last year. That's a little bit of a lagging indicator because that's completion of contracts that were awarded 3-4 years ago. But we're happy with the upward trajectory of that, and that's the day-to-day management of C&D, is getting these projects built on time and on budget. Few important examples from last year. In the last few years, we set out to completely remove the backlog of subway elevators past their useful life. In 2025, we delivered on that, completing 39 replacements in the subway system, 2 more on the railroads. With additional completions coming this year, we'll have gotten the whole system of elevators to a state of good repair. That's really the key to maintaining elevator in-service time that we always hear about. We're only able to do that because we got far more efficient, cutting 2 months off the average replacement project. We're adding more elevators to the system. These are new elevators. 10 total stations were made accessible last year, 7 subway stations, 3 on Long Island Railroad. And just since last committee meeting, we've celebrated 2 completions, Park Chester on the 6th, Laurelton on Long Island Railroad, Far Rockaway Branch, which is pictured here. Our new tap and ride fare payment system also makes the subways and buses easier to use and more affordable for our riders. After some challenges with this program early on in terms of implementation, we substantially completed our Omni contract in 2025 as planned. That was on schedule. And we got to 98% adoption with the sunset of MetroCard. We saved $60 million from the capital project. We were able to have a plan amendment in the fall that put that money back into additional projects getting built in the system. And every year we're achieving $20 million in operating savings. But by the way, we checked in the interim, and we did save $75 million on the implementation of congestion relief, that infrastructure, Board Member Mahal says. $75 million on the capital project. There's operating savings too, which I'm not going to try to speak to. More milestones to come on fare payment this year, but we had a tremendous year with Omni. We finished a major upgrade of the Grand Central subway complex. 14 brand new staircases, replaced 10 escalators, 4 elevators. We added 30 new turnstiles, soon to be fare gates, increasing the overall passenger floor space by 20%. It includes creating a new hallway and stair from the Lexington line to the 7 train. You'll recall that new tunnel that we built in the heart of Midtown was blessed here by the Reverend Brendan Fitzgerald, along with the Sandhogs, this great partnership that we have. Looking forward to blessing the much larger tunnel in East Harlem for Second Avenue Subway in the coming years. But we got this done while saving more than $46 million. We've massively accelerated the rebuilding of the Grand Central train shed that carries 98% of Metro North service. That's with public-private partnerships. Phase 1 we completed last year, $20 million under budget, put that right back into getting the next phase done. And we were out there announcing that we took in $75 million in private contributions from developers along Park Avenue to get the next couple of phases done. That's a lot of thanks to our real estate and transit-oriented development partners, who you'll hear from soon. And of course, we completed Phase 1 of Park Avenue Viaduct ahead of schedule and under budget. We've talked a lot about that, so I'll leave it at that. That's my summary of overall performance last year. I want to do our regular business infrastructure business unit report, but maybe I should stop for a minute and see if there's any comments or questions on that.
Ms. Lopez?
Thank you. Two quick things. Jamie, thank you so much for this report, for the year-end review. And also, thank you to your staff. As all of you know, Westchester County implemented Omni in their Beeline bus system on January 4th. And, a lot of work went behind the scenes in being able to bring that system on. And Jamie, thank you to you and your staff for helping us throughout these past couple of years. So we're very excited to have that, and we look forward to sharing data as well as to how that's going. For me, based on the review of the capital projects, it would be helpful to have information on the capital projects in the Metro North Rail, especially in Westchester County. That's something that I could receive. I'm always asked by municipalities with respect to different projects going on. So anything that's current or that we're looking forward to starting in 26, that would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll give you both the summary of what's in the capital plan, and also there's been a actually great interagency team that's been working to, Metro North, it's a big jump up for Metro North. We're not shy about saying that, especially because with the dollars that are in the plan for the Grand Central Artery, Metro North is at almost an $8 billion investment in this 5-year plan. So we've been working very hard together, and Justin and I have a great partnership on this to get things moving. And so we can talk about, we're really pushing forward the rebuild of those Harlem Line stations, the hollow core stations. That's building on some of what we've done on the three stations in the Bronx that are getting done now. We're moving forward with a lot of improvements on the Hudson Line right now, and we're also preparing for that big $800 million resiliency investment on the Hudson Line, and then lots of state of good repair work, both done by our third-party contractors and as Metro North mobilizes its forces to get that done. So we're happy to give you that update, and agree. Thanks for the partnership on Beeline.
Anybody else on the year-end report before Jamie does the infrastructure? Midori Valdivia.
Thank you, Jamie. Just to clarify, so 15.8 billion, I believe, that's a very impressive number. Wanted to know what the actuals were for 2025.
Thank you, Commissioner. What do you mean by actuals? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, budget speak. Actual expenditures,
Yes.
capital in 2025.
Oh, so the actual dollar, so that's not a number I have handy, but we'll get that to you. Thank you. So,
Go ahead,
so
infrastructure.
a little more of our traditional CPC content here, but also a good story here. So our infrastructure business unit is responsible for New York City Transit's shops, yards, tunnels, power network, and more. Few stats for those of you who like it: 61 route miles of elevated structures, 155 route miles of subway tunnels, 233 substations, 254 pump rooms, 75 New York City Transit facilities, over hundreds of acres, just to name a few. It's a lot of the behind-the-scenes infrastructure, but actually this group is responsible for some of our biggest and most complicated projects, and these are the projects that keep service running and enabling the record on-time performance that we see in the subway system. So the program is made up of 3 groups. They handle the power, back-of-house facilities, and the line structures, both the tunnels underground and the 60 miles of subway that we have above ground. The total portfolio is almost $20 billion. We have about $5 billion currently in construction, another $7 billion in design or procurement. This is a really critical part of the 25 to 29 plan. It's a generational investment in back-of-house infrastructure that this business unit leads. And as you can see, we're doing so much more than we have in previous plans, thanks to the way that we're going about it. So just a word on each of those three categories. What are we doing? On power, we're going to improve 70 substations in this plan. That's either complete overhaul or component replacement. It's about 1/3 of the substations that we'll bring into a state of good repair in just one capital program. And power is really the hidden key to running safe and reliable service with fewer outages, even to running trains closer together once we have CBTC installed. And here's a good example of that. On completion from last year, the new 28th Street substation on the 8th Avenue line, we added this to provide a much-needed power source for AC and E service. It's enabled the additional service on the line that we announced in November of last year, and it also will support the ongoing CBTC installation on the line. This project, very complicated, completed on budget at the end of last year. Second category, before our trains ever get into service, they're tested and repaired at our shops and yards. We've made incredible progress over the last few years catching up on state of good repair in the yards, but there's a lot more to do. So some of the highlights we've talked about: rebuilding and providing just massive flood protection in Coney Island Yard and 207th Street Yard. These on their own have been mega projects. In the coming plan, as I said, we've got a lot more to do, and we recognize that. We're catching up with two critical facilities in need of a rebuild, Livonia and Westchester, and we're also future discussion planning for the future of the entire shops and yards network with New York City Transit. And we'll bring some of that to a future meeting because there's a lot of interesting things that are coming out of that for the future of the system. Completion from last year, the rail car acceptance facility, early, under budget. This is going to position us for the massive influx of rail cars in the 25 to 29 plan. Another big facilities project is the Jamaica Bus Depot, where we're replacing an 85-year-old facility to deliver the bus service the neighborhood relies on, with a capacity of 272 buses, capacity for full electrification, high voltage within that depot. So that project is moving ahead and moving along well. Last category, reducing the backlog of line structures. This capital program will allow us to catch up on repairing and repainting our elevated structures. Almost half of the 60 miles of elevated subway that we have up there will get done in just this one program. And the status on one of those programs that's underway, this new approach that we're taking, which is actually borrowed from our B&T colleagues, is more efficient, and it extends the lifespan of painting the structures to 25 to 30 years, which is a huge cost-saving measure, and of course it means big aesthetic improvements for neighborhoods across the city. So that this project is moving forward well. Another kind of line structure, rebuilding service to the Rockaways. Last time we presented, we were just starting the 17-week shutdown of A service to the Rockaways. It's a massive undertaking. The picture on the left shows just part of the overall site, just the part on land, not the swing bridge that we fully rehabilitated. But we celebrated the successful completion of that shutdown in May of last year, returning service to the Rockaways as promised. In that time, we reconstructed 1,300 feet of the Hamels Y, which is the section of the service running on land. We added 3,000 feet of shielding to keep debris off the line. We reconstructed 1,600 feet of track. And we are continuing now, as you can see, with additional resilience work to ensure the A will stand up to more extreme weather in the Rockaways. But the major reconstruction component of this project is done and service is fully restored. And that's a good segue. On that note, I do want to make a special acknowledgement. We at C&D, we try to avoid retirements as much as we possibly can, and we see people really sticking it out as they do at all agencies. But special acknowledgement of someone who I've come to really respect, Deirdre Harvey. I don't know if she's here. We invited her. Project executive for the Rockaways reconstruction, that huge project in Coney Island Yard, and much more. Is retiring shortly, and we recognize Deirdre Harvey. Also, they wouldn't give us pictures of themselves, but Steve Barang, who is our longtime budget director, is retiring this month, as is Bobby Samuel, who's been instrumental in our wireless connectivity efforts. So to the three of them and many others, I really want to thank them for their service.
I got to just add a word about Deirdre. Like when I was doing the C&D job, and I went out many times to the Coney Island to see that project where they're taking, after Sandy, they took all of the cables that run through this 100, I think it's a 100+ acre facility, and built bridges so that they would be up in the air in this highly vulnerable area that's close to the coast, close to Coney Island Creek, that was where all that cabling had been destroyed because it was at ground level. And Deirdre oversaw that project, putting these huge steel walls around the entire yard, and she's amazing. And then Jamie moved her over to the Rockaways job, and she did. We all know how well that one went. This is an extraordinary public servant. Likewise, Bobby Samuel and Barang, who, when he was up in headquarters budgeting, tortured me. But then when we had the C&D thing happen, he became part of the C&D team and served.
Where he continued to torture you.
Yes.
But
But
that's
anyway,
what we wanted him
these
to
are
do.
three great
Yeah.
professionals, and I just want to add a word of thanks personally to them, although none of them will be present to accept kudos, apparently.
We're too far ahead of
Yeah.
the schedule.
But let me just add one thing about a single one of Jamie's slides, the 28th Street Power Substation. This is just a little reminder for what you all deal with. Nobody wanted that for 5-10 years before C&D was formed, nobody wanted the power substation in their, they said, you can't do it here, you can't do it here, and they looked all over that part of Chelsea where to put it. There were like 5 studies of where to stick it, and they all ended with no action. C&D said, we'll bite the bullet, we'll accept the political complexities. We chose 28th Street, which is a side street through that part of Chelsea, which is as wide as Amsterdam Avenue up north. It just happens to be one of the widest side streets in New York. And there was a lot of politics. Did it, projects on budget, got done, and you saw what a modern power substation looks like compared to an old one. So this is a good, that one's a good representative of what it means to kind of do the hard stuff. You have to be willing to make a decision, move forward, and get the job done successfully, and that's what C&D has done. So credit to you guys all along. Anybody else wishing to be heard on infrastructure issues? All this small stuff that Jamie's doing. Okay, getting it all done. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. I think we have an IC over there.
Oh, I'm so sorry. The the independent engineer needs to be heard from on a couple projects.
Sure. Good morning, Chair. This month, IEC is reporting in detail on 4 projects in C&D's Infrastructure Business Unit, which begin on page 14 of your committee book. We begin our report with the Rockaway Line resiliency and viaduct rehabilitation. The IEC notes that the project remains within budget with estimated completion at $584 million. The long-term general order, GO, executed in early 2025, allowed for concentrated structural rehabilitation work across the corridor, which included viaduct repairs, Hamels wire rehabilitation, and South Channel Bridge electrical and mechanical upgrades. Independent of this GO, signal system improvements at Beach 105th Street Station required a redesign, resulting in a forecast delay of 10 months. The IEC notes that day-to-day service operations remain unaffected. The project team is managing the remaining risks through focused procurement, submittal prioritization, and interagency coordination. Next, we report on the Jamaica Bus Depot, a new state-of-the-art bus parking and maintenance facility delivered as a design-build project will replace the aging existing depot at the same location. The IEC previously reported a delay due to DEP permit challenges. The project team successfully recovered 21 days through strategic weekend work and utilizing additional equipment. With building envelopes nearing completion, the IEC agrees that further mitigation may be possible during the next phase of construction. The IEC concurs with the substantial completion forecast for October 2027. The current budget of $649 million is forecast to be sufficient for project completion, even after accounting for cost exposures related to high-tension electrical upgrades and soft cost overruns stemming from the extended project duration. Commercial property acquisition schedule impacts have been successfully mitigated. However, challenges with testing and commissioning continue to be a risk to the project schedule, as is typical with most projects. Next is painting and steel repairs on elevated structures. This is the IEC's first report on this project. The project comprises of the removal of existing paint, abrasive blasting, painting operations, and necessary structural steel repairs along the elevated structures between Williamsburg Bridge and DeSales Place on the Jamaica line, and East New York leads and loops on the Canarsie line. IEC notes that the project is forecast to be completed within budget, with the estimated completion at $217 million. Substantial completion, originally scheduled for March 2026, has been revised to September 2026 due to contractor productivity issues. The project team is working on mitigation strategies. Unidentified structural defects remain the primary risk to the project. Lastly, we report on line structure component repairs. This is the IEC's first report on this project. This design bid build project will address critical defects on 7th and 8th Avenue lines through targeted steel and concrete repairs on columns, beams, and tunnel walls. Work on these lines touches 5 stations in Manhattan and includes stormwater mitigation, demolition of abandoned structures, and girder and abutment repairs. The project remains within budget and on schedule, with substantial completion forecast for January 2028. GEO work continues to progress with consistent production achieved through late 2025. All planned GEOs to date have been executed successfully, and the remaining outages are fully sequenced. Schedule risk remains due to reliance on weekend and piggyback GEOs and by the potential for unforeseen site conditions to add scope and effect sequencing. Turning to the IEC's regular oversight responsibilities, each quarter we publish the Traffic Light Report, or TLR, and accompanying variance reports showing the budget and schedule status of projects for the quarter and discusses relevant issues affecting the projects and mitigations being pursued. Our analysis is provided to C&D and shared with the business units. We analyzed 46 infrastructure projects. These projects were reported in the last Traffic Light Report presented at December's CPC meeting. 5 of the projects, or 11% of the projects, triggered schedule variances caused in part by unforeseen site conditions, poor contractor performance, inspection issues, or design errors. The IEC would like to note that none of the projects experienced cost variances. The IEC reviewed the problems and mitigations for the 5 TLR projects and worked with C&D to prepare variance reports explaining the issues. This concludes IEC's comments on C&D's infrastructure business unit.
Any questions or comments for the IEC? Well, I'll venture some. Suresh, when you say you've triggered an adjustment to schedule in 5 projects out of 45 or whatever it is that after you've taken into account the mitigations, or is it possible that the projects could come back to the schedule that was originally?
It is possible for them to come back to recover the schedule.
Okay. So, Jamie, in the Jamaica Bus Depot, we have delay. They've got Skanska on that job, good contractor, but they were responsible for some of the delay, if I'm not mistaken. What's the chances of recapturing the schedule?
So the project is experiencing delay. It's multiple causes. Part of it, frankly, is it was very difficult to get a permit for stormwater management from some of our partners, and that's a conversation that we are beginning very actively with the new administration at the city. I think we've got mitigations for that for projects in the future. Some of it also is performance, and so we've already mitigated the delay by about a month, and we're working on other measures to mitigate that. So we'll report back on that.
Okay. And finally, with the painting regime, right? We're borrowing the approach that was used by B&T, but didn't we also borrow the contractor who was doing a lot of that B&T painting? So they shouldn't be having productivity issues. They had a track record, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's a few things going. So for the most part, the project is on budget. We have a slip of a few months that we're trying to recover, and some of that is just the complexity of working, over a New York City street, in a community. We also have I think another project we didn't report on where the contractor's having some severe financial issues, so we're trying to dig ourselves out from that one. But this is very important because, as we said, there's a lot of overcoating, the painting of above-ground structures that we need to do in the next 5 years.
Okay. All right, those are my questions. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, I think you've got a TOD presentation, right?
Yes, I'll just segue. The board will know that in the last few years we have certainly recognized that it's part of and been directed by the governor to recognize that it's part of the MTA's mandate to bring particularly housing closer to transit and to bring transit closer to housing. And we've there have always been the sort of mega redevelopment projects like in East Midtown that are really significant. But over the last few years, we've very much ramped up our ability to look system-wide at opportunities for transit-oriented development and made a ton of progress. Some of that is through great collaboration with the outgoing chair of the City Planning Commission, Board Member Garodnick, and his team and his colleagues at City Hall. That's been we've made great progress on that and expect to make major progress on that with the coming administration. And a lot of that is because we were able to bring Miriam Harris to the MTA, who's got vast experience in this work and has been leading our transit-oriented development department for a little over a year now. So we wanted Miriam to give an update to the board on our progress.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Chair and members of the board, for the opportunity to share highlights from the MTA's transit-oriented development achievements over the past year. The TOD Group is a small but impactful part of the planning department within MTA's construction and development agency. Our mission is threefold: to connect the region by facilitating housing near transit nodes, to advance system-wide accessibility, and to create value for the MTA that can be reinvested in the system. In 2025, we unlocked 1,738 housing units adjacent to public transportation. We achieved this through development on MTA-owned or controlled property and by executing real estate transactions that enabled private development adjacent to our stations. A standout project this year has been the Beacon Station development on Metro North's Hudson Line. Following a very competitive RFP process, Jonathan Rose Companies was conditionally designated last summer to create 264 apartments on MTA-owned station parking lots. This RFP was made possible by the Governor's EO30 initiative, which created the Rush Infrastructure Fund. With funding for structured parking, we were able to make the site economically viable for private housing development under a long-term ground lease with the MTA. We also advanced TOD, as Jamie mentioned, through proactive engagement in municipal land use actions. This year, we completed the MTA's first ULURP as lead applicant for 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. This upzoning of a future 2nd Avenue subway entrance site will support higher density housing above the new station. In addition, we collaborated with the City of New York to achieve their Atlantic Avenue mixed-use plan by including MTA sites in the rezoning, enabling a 100% affordable housing project on a former transit parcel, and the upzoning of an adjacent MTA parcel, which we will offer for multifamily housing in an RFP process in 2026. 2025 also marked a major milestone in accessibility work at the TOD Group. We had the grand opening of the first zoning transit bonus elevator in Queens, and we executed more easements and transit improvement bonus agreements for elevator projects in a single year than in all the past years combined since launching the Zoning for Accessibility program with the city in 2021. The ZFA program is a partnership between the New York City Department of City Planning and MTA, and it's administered here at the MTA by the TOD Group. A key project for the TOD Group this year was the Lenox Hill Hospital redevelopment at 77th Street and Lexington Avenue. This zoning bonus will deliver an elevator and wider sidewalks at a busy and critical hospital location, transforming narrow, unsafe, and inaccessible station entrances. And in terms of value creation, in 2025, we generated over $300 million in value for the MTA through the private provision of transit facilities and property rights for future transit improvements, and public-private real estate transactions that produce revenue, either as one-time payments or on long-term ground lease rental streams, which can last as long as 99 years. At TOD, we strive to integrate new MTA facilities into our public-private redevelopment projects. One example, which you'll see here, is the Key Street Monitor Point project. Here, a developer will relocate the MTA's material control and mobile wash facility off of the site to a modern off-site location. This will enable waterfront housing redevelopment on the outdated MTA facility property. This project is now in ULURP. In addition to our competitive RFPs to sell or ground lease MTA property, we also seek other forms of public-private partnerships based on our real property rights. On Park Avenue, as Jamie mentioned and we announced this year with the chair, we successfully partnered with property owners who were taking advantage of the city's East Midtown rezoning to tear down outdated office towers to create larger state-of-the-art buildings. In this case, they need to coordinate their construction with our below-grade ownership of and critical structures in the Metro North train shed beneath their buildings. As part of this coordination of their construction, we successfully negotiated $75 million in private contributions this year to fund the MTA's critical restoration of the train shed roof, which, as many or all of you know, is over 100 years old. In closing, 2025 was a productive year for the TOD Group, and it set the stage for major achievements that we hope to achieve in 2026 and beyond. So looking ahead, we will continue to work hard to unlock housing near our stations, advance accessibility through private investment, and deliver capital assets needed by our operating agencies. Thank you.
Great presentation. Any questions or comments? I just want to acknowledge that on Bursley Everly's slide, you saw the role of the Department of City Planning of the City of New York, and Dan Gorodnick, who is a member of our board, has done such an amazing job in so many ways, but one of them has been to advance this partnership to get a lot of housing done for the city and in tandem with the MTA. So Dan, we're all I think I saw a hand over here to the left. Mr. Chu.
I think this is great, and I think we should be doing more of this. And I think it is an opportunity to harken back to something that really stuck out at me when in the 20-year needs assessment, the new matrices of consideration that all of these TODs required partnership, right? And Jana was called out Dan and the city stepping up, and Beacon. We have the mayor here, and it all starts with partnership. And we have, and I would have loved to see more projects, in the suburbs, and particularly on the island, and where
Stay tuned.
And I know they're exciting, but we hear a lot about. We get a lot of calls for new infrastructure and new investment from the MTA. Along the old adage, if you build it, they will come. And I think, this is coinciding with the efforts of this team and with the 20-year needs assessment, where there's a pretty clear path to how you can increase, how the MTA sees the value of a potential infrastructure investment that you could come to. Like you can step up. There's a team here that's willing to work with you and help support you and help get you there. And I just think this is a really exciting presentation, and thank you for highlighting this work.
Thank you. Blanca Lopez.
It's actually also TOD that has brought together the MTA and the Westchester County Department of Planning. I truly appreciate the quarterly meetings that we've been having for the last year or two. And I was getting worried during the presentation because they weren't showing the the discussions that we've had in terms of the projects at Mount Vernon East and Port Chester and I think Goldensbridge. But it was nice to see that on the last slide that there's a lot more to come. But there's a lot of discussions also being had. So I really appreciate the partnership. So thank you.
Yes, we spent a lot of time this year teeing up the projects for next year,
Yes.
some of which you actually just mentioned. Yes, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? I mean, this is a great area, and I just want to underscore what Sammy Chu said, which is we're looking for partners who want to figure out how to do housing development, especially adjacent to transit. There's great opportunity. That's clearly something that is everywhere it develops. It's really successful. It helps to enliven the center of towns and villages around railroad stations. And there's just a ton of opportunity, and the governor is subsidizing it by offering resources to create sites by in effect creating structured parking so that you can take an at-grade parking lot and turn half of it or more into a housing development site. So there is a really great opportunity, but we do need partners for these localities to decide they want to be like Westbury or Beacon or Port Chester or some of these other places that have already stepped up on it. There's a good road to follow. Mr. Chu.
I know we're working on time. I don't want to be labor, but I didn't want to forget. I would love at some point an update. I know we did a couple of last mile pilots a couple of years ago, and which were kind of to prove out the model to see how we could expand efforts. So it'd be great in the future or even offline. I know Blanca and I have talked a lot about it at the time. It'd be great to have an update on how the findings from those last mile pilots.
Will do. Okay. I think we have come to the end of our official agenda for presentation. So now I'm going to turn to our more routine board business. So bear with us if we will. Let's start with construction development, which has a bunch of procurements. Evan? Mike.
Good?
Yes.
All right. Presenting 4 modifications totaling $7 million for approval. The first is a modification to a contract with Dudlow Contracting in the amount of $1.335 million to demolish 2 decommissioned circuit breaker houses. The next is a modification with Mitsubishi Electric Power Products in the amount of $1.2 million to perform software upgrades to the CBT system for the Queens Boulevard East Line to incorporate updates to the MTA's interoperability interface specification. And the last 2 items are ratifications. The first in the amount of $550,426 to RK Contracting to compensate that contractor for additional work necessitated by unanticipated site conditions. And finally, a modification to Hitachi Rail GTS USA, Inc. for $4 million to resolve contractor claims for delay caused by a delay in production of R211 subway cars. So these items are described in detail in the staff summaries contained with your committee books, and I submit them for your consideration and vote.
There is detail, as Evan says, in the committee books. Are there any questions or comments on these 4 actions? If not, I'll take a motion to approve. Mr. Herbst. Thank you, Dr. Rizzo, for a second. All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items are approved. Lizette, would you present the procurement agenda?
Yes.
For MTA HQ.
Yes, there is one item from MTA headquarters this month. We are seeking board approval to award 8 competitively negotiated all-agency personal services contract to provide a full range of market research services on an as-needed basis for a period of 60 months. The combined total is not to exceed $5.7 million. This item will establish a panel of contracts for use throughout the term. $0 contracts will be awarded to the following firms: Eureka Fax LLC, Ipsos Public Affairs LLC, M. Davis and Company, Inc., National Opinion Research Center, Resource System Group, Inc., Target Research Group, Inc., the Mass Inc. Polling Group, and Widener, Burroughs and Associates, Inc. These firms are eligible to provide services including questionnaire and sampling design, data tabulation of survey results, analysis, and report writing. Tasks will be solicited through a competitive mini RFP process. I submit this item for board approval.
Okay, this is the modern-day Mad Men roster. Mr. Chu has made a motion. Are there any discussion or questions? Dr. Rizzo, are you seconding again? All in favor? Any opposition or abstentions? The item is approved. Staying with Lizette, you have a couple of items for the Transit Committee?
Yes, there are 2 items this month. The first item is a request that the board approve a 3-year extension to a contract for ultrasonic internal rail flaw inspections conducted using our track geometry cars with Placer American Corporation. The services ensures track integrity by detecting potential flaws in the rail before there is a failure for repair or replacement. This extension is required to support continued uninterrupted service while new ultrasonic systems are installed in our track geometry cars. All services provided by Placer in this contract are performed by and proprietary to Placer. The second item is a request that the board approve the exercise of option 2 to the contract for post-award consulting services with C2K Partners in support of the R34-211 option 2 subway car contract. The term of this option period is 56 months and estimated amount is $15.5 million. Consulting services provided under the option 2 will primarily cover inspection and testing and other engineering support for the project. I submit these procurement items for approval.
Any comments or questions on either of these items? Okay. Motion? Lisa Soren, second. I think Blanca raised her hand. Blanca Lopez, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items are approved. Real estate, Mr. Floria, where are you?
Mr. Chairman, real estate has 6 transactional items for consideration and approval. The first 4 are for MTA Metro North and include the following easements: the grant of a permanent easement to the City of New York Department of Environmental Protection within the BM Yard in connection with the city's Tibbetts Brook Daylight Project in the Bronx. It's a water drainage effort. The remaining 3 easements are acquisitions to support Penn Station access. 2 are from Con Ed for the Oak and Van Ness substations in the Bronx, and the last is from Y Property Holdings, adjacent property, that will support the project's drainage needs near the Morris Park area in the Bronx. The last 2 items are for MTA New York City Transit and include a lease with Hungry Angels Subs for a ground floor convenience store, street-level convenience store on 18th Avenue in Brooklyn, and a license with TB Grant Housing Development for a landscape walkway on Grant Avenue in Brooklyn.
Okay. We're in the real estate business, so that's 5 items. Any comments or questions? All right, I'll take a motion, if I can have one. Ms. Soren, second Mr. Herbst. All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The real estate items are approved. Audit Committee items. Monica Murray.
Thank you. We ask the board to approve the 2026 audit plan and the third quarter 2025 consolidated interim financial statements.
Well, you heard the plan. Any comments? All right. Ms. Lopez, will you make the motion? Thank you. Second. Ms. Mihaltzis, all in favor? Any opposition or abstention? The items carry. The final item of administrative business is minutes from each of the committees and the December board minutes, which have been distributed to members. Any corrections or omissions? Okay. There's a joyful start to the new year. Mr. Albert has approved. If there are no further comments or corrections, the minutes as distributed are approved. With that, I can ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, Dr. Rizzo. Second, Mr. Gorodnick. All in favor, we are in adjournment. Thank you.